Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. He's back again. What's up, Tom?
Hello, friends.
I
I am
say
here.
that because you were here Saturday, not because you've been here in the normal show for almost a month, but you were here
Details.
Saturday.
Details.
Yeah,
Details.
sure.
It's fine.
In fact, I believe it has been a full month, as a matter of fact. Also joining us, the whole crew's here. It's Tyler. What's up, buddy? They
Mhm.
do both exist.
Absolutely. Yeah. I still don't think I'm caught up on Tom covering me, unfortunately. So I probably
Uh,
do still have some.
I don't know what you're talking
Else,
about.
maybe.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
Fair.
I think we're caught up.
Are we caught up? All right. All right.
I mean,
Excellent.
no, but it's fine.
Right off the rip, welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about the new General's Handbook today. If you're excited to get into the details, give that a like. Hit that button there. It's nice. It helps other people find the show right as we kick off. So hit that button. But as always, we're going to start off with some news. Tom, what do we got? This is your part where you talk.
Rumor engine.
Yeah, sure. The thing that before we started, you literally said, "It's cool. I've got it open. I'm ready."
No. So what you don't understand, Vince. Let's just qualify this. What you don't understand is I was actually opening up YouTube so that I could view the comments, but I was making sure it was muted. But in order to do that, I muted myself. Like I turned off the volume so it wouldn't like pop up when it started, like when the clip auto started. And then when I unmuted, everybody was silent, and I'm like, I suspect it's news.
Good inference. It's a weird, twisty, mutated arm thing with a post through it. It's upside down, or maybe I don't know.
I mean, it kind of looks like a butt.
It's not
It's
a butt.
not. I know it's not, but
one heck of a butt. Hmm.
You got a weird perception of what butts look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what concerns me about what your butt looks like. But the I don't know. It's a weird arm thing. Sure, why not? Okay.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
got a post through it.
Yes, I don't know what to say about it. It is weird.
It's the end of the hand that rocks the cradle, or something like where somebody falls on a beam. It's like how people die in movies where you fight in construction sites. They like fall off and then it posts, little metal pins and posts go through them and stuff. Yeah.
That checks out.
Sure. All right. Cool. What else we got?
So we had this weird Warcry announcement released yesterday.
Yeah.
Crypt of Blood, also known as Nephrata Bust with bonus models.
With bonus models, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I remember Ben Cantor had gone to some great length to sculpt a Neferata bust. If only he would have known, he could have just waited a short amount of time and then had this here. So this is two war bands from Underworlds that have already appeared in other products. In fact, if memory serves, the Stormcast that are here have actually appeared in like 2 or 3 other products. Like they were originally from Harrowdeep, I think, and then they went to Nethermaze, and now they're here in the Gnarlwood. These three just, boy, I'll tell you, Sigmar needs to give these guys some bonus pay. They're getting into all the scrapes.
They're just carving their way through skirmishes.
Yeah. So this is like a starter mini set of reprint models, because this is for Warcry, but it's like a small starter set.
So let's name that price. What do you think the price is?
$80.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a guess. You just asked me. I gave you a number. I don't know.
I have no clue. I'm not even that familiar with the pricing scheme of this stuff, Warcry, etc.
I'm gonna go. If I'm going to be conservative, I actually think it's going to be $59.95.
Wow. I mean, we can talk about the 4 pieces of knockoff Garden of Moor terrain that are in here, okay, which are like 2 solid walls and 2 little fancy walls. You can kind of see them in the picture a little bit. Then you have the crypt the actual crypt, the thing in the front left of the picture, and you have the Neferata bust.
Yep, the sarcophagus.
Yeah. Sorry, sarcophagus. That's correct. You're right. I mean, the vampires are obviously cool. They're one of the best Underworld's warbands of all time. So, like, yeah. I'm not sad about another box with these dudes.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's a weird Warcry box because these are clearly like less I don't know what to say. This is less than a full warband. Right? Like these guys are part of you could previously in the last season take these guys as part of your warband and like you still had more models.
Yeah.
So okay, cool, fine. I mean, like repurposing Underworlds and Warcry have been bleeding together. This is just the continuation of that journey.
Greasy Panham asked if the train was part of the Garden of Moor set. It's funny you asked that because we had this conversation right before the show started. And in fact, I've spent a lot of hours on Garden of Moor.
Sure.
And none of the terrain that's actually in this box is in Garden of Moor. Now, in this image,
they are using the Garden of Moor in the background.
There's a Garden of Moor in the background. That little, the little like mausoleum in the back, the top left. That is from the Garden of Moor, but that's not actually in the box. So the pieces that are coming in the box do not actually have any Garden of Moor in it.
Yeah, they look like they belong in the Garden of Moor, but they're not. Right?
Yeah, they're definitely not.
They just look like if somebody slightly resculpted those, basically.
Yeah, it's a really curious decision, right? Because they have to have the molds for Garden of Moor. And so the question is like, why did they not just reuse it like they've reused it 8 or 10 other times already? Like, this is something they're very used to, is putting Garden of Moor in everything. But
yeah, it's all Jim Crimmins. It is new terrain. I'm just saying it's not actually the Garden of Moor. The sarcophagus and the Neferata bust are net new. The four walls are new, but like they don't exist. But like you have very similar pieces in the Garden of Moor. Not exactly, but similar.
Yeah, I mean, all of the walls were straight in Garden of Moor. They didn't have this like swoopy up and down. To it. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time painting Garden of Moor, and those pieces are not Garden of Moor. I can assure you.
Yep. So okay.
Yeah. So this is neat. I don't hate it. I love the bust. I actually like the sarcophagus a lot. For skirmish games, it would make a really interesting objective.
Sure.
You know, like that's a fun like piece I could paint up as an objective. And the same thing for the statue. The walls are fine. It's fine. Again, I'm hoping, like, my estimate was that this was going to be around 60. If they were wanting to be super aggressive as a starter, they would price this around 50. I don't think they will. But if they were being super aggressive, that's where they would be. That's the space they would be.
I mean, they said very clear, it is a small starter set for Warcry. Yeah. That is what it is labeled as in the article.
Now, if I want to be cynical, it'll be 80.
Sure. Okay. Cool. There we go. What else we got?
So we did a preview show on Saturday.
We did. So what I put this on there because obviously we already talked about all of those reveals in the not Warhammer 40,000 show, but. So I'm not going to cover those again. But Tyler, you didn't get to participate in that show, so I wanted to ask you if you had any opinions on anything you saw there.
Love the Linus of the Parch. I think that's the name, something like that. Sure. Incredible model. Yeah. The rest of the Cities of Sigmar so far not doing a whole lot for me personally, but others' mileage may vary. I actually didn't catch that show. What do you guys think of the rest of the? I mean, I'll just imagine you both like the Manicore. Hopefully.
Yeah. She's incredible.
Yeah. What'd you think of the rest of the? It's not doing a whole lot for me personally, but that's just me. The rest of the COS, you guys like any of that stuff? Or the box set also seemed a little underwhelming. Like, there's no guns. No, it's just I don't know. It's very basic, but I'm nitpicking. We got rats.
We got rats.
But yeah, Tom, what'd you think of the COS?
I like the Cav.
Yeah.
I do.
I think there's
It's busy, but I like it.
yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Events, they do much
COS
for you?
like
Yeah.
COS is like a 6.5 out of 10 for me. The Cruel
Okay.
Boys are like a 4 out of 10 for me, and the Skaven Warband was like a 9 out of 10. There you go.
Yeah. Rats look good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was happy to see everybody voting in the comments for the review reaction, and there was a spread of opinions. I couldn't. The Cruel Boys occupied every number multiple times in a near even spread from 1 through 10. I have never seen such a distribution on a release. It was incredible. It's just like if I mapped it, it would just be like, it would just be like an even plot. You know what I mean? Like no, just be this line of bars.
All right.
Anyway,
I'll be curious to see how much accoutrements, how much extra stuff is on the mana core itself in terms of trying to use that as a conversion piece. Obviously, like Chaos Stork Lord on mana core, I mean that is an old kit, right? So if
yeah.
you could actually make that work without too much effort, like a dummy, like how could a dummy like me try to do something with that for Slaves of Darkness
Depends
without a
how
lot of
much
effort?
it depends how much the girl is attached to the mana core, right? That's what it's all going to come down
Yeah.
to. So,
I mean, like, did it have a lot of the COS plating, Cities of Sigmar plating on
oh
it, like
sure,
some of the dragons do, that sort of thing. But
sure,
yeah,
that stuff's easy enough to scrape off.
yeah.
But sure. All right, cool. But go back and watch that show if you haven't yet. If you've got other thoughts. All right, cool.
Cool.
Let's talk some pick of the week. Tyler, what do you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out. So Dave Griffin, he posted a tweet photo today of the Chaos Citadel terrain set that he painted out from Dark Fantastic Mills, printed out by the one and only Mr. Pocastro, and it looks amazing. And it actually looks like something that, again, certain dummies might be able to pull off. It looked like a lot of dry brushing. So what's your guys? Oh gosh, your guys' friend name? I should know it offhand. We hung out with him at Adepticon.
Oh, Dan.
He's awesome. Dan, yeah, Dan and his Slaves of Darkness terrain that he painted up for
Yes.
Adepticon it kind of felt like that style.
Sure.
But yeah, just wanted to give that a shout out. So if anybody missed it, the Chaos Citadel terrain was a Kickstarter. No longer, but it is now on Dark Fantastic Mills' website. It's just amazing terrain. And he launched it this week on his website. So that's all I got.
Very nice. Tom, what do you want to share with everybody?
While he's clearly taking a break, I want to spruik Ninjon's video from like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago about like his reflections on speed painting.
Yep.
He shares a lot of kind of sentiments that I have also kind of like come to as I've worked with the various speed painting systems, trying to find something that like works for me, and I'm just struggling. So, there are strengths to all of it, of course, but yeah. So, anyways, check it out.
No, it's a great recommendation. I very much enjoyed that video. My shout out is going to be for Halo Plus, the subscription service that costs you nothing. And that is to say, if you want to see some additional reactions to the Warhammer reveal, Halo Plus, of course, the massive industries behind that got the upload for the Halo reveal reaction uploaded onto Halo Plus from his Twitch, and it's a great time. Would recommend 10 out of 10 as always. The man is never better than when he's reacting to things. I mean, Heywo's a talented and gifted individual, but when he gives good reaction. So it's worth a watch. Okay. All those are or will be linked down below. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about some hobby time. Tyler, you've been working on, buddy? After our hobby show last week, were you inspired?
I mean, I was. That was a really fun show. I'm so glad we did that. Yeah, it was a blast. I learned a lot from that show. I got to go back and listen to it again and take extensive notes and have all of the references that were mentioned. Amazing show. It was really cool to see a lot of the comments too. How much a lot of people got out of that show. We got to do that more often.
Absolutely.
So I played 2 games of the new GHB, so those were fun. Get into those later. And I've been still assembling battle systems terrain. Because it is a real problem that they don't
Sure.
have actual assembly instructions.
Yeah.
And my God, is it because I'm having to pause the videos and like go 0.25 speed to follow along because they do these cuts where they like speed forward. Yeah. It's other than that, I'm in love with this cardboard terrain set that they put together, but the lack of instructions is a bit of a nightmare.
Ah,
So
yes. You don't know how spoiled you are by GW until you go to companies that don't include printed instructions in their things, and you're like, well, what do I do with this?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So which one? You said Battle Systems is what you were building?
yeah, man. You ever seen any of their stuff? Battlesystems.co.uk, I think. It's quite nice. It's just, yeah, there's like they're very aware. Like you look at their videos and the comments are just full of people like, yeah, we really need some actual better videos or instructions for this stuff. But yeah, it's good product. Yeah.
Well, I found myself doing the same this week.
No,
Oh,
wow.
really?
But not with that company.
Okay.
I picked up the starter set for Star Wars Shatterpoint,
Oh, yeah.
which is 16 or so models of your favorite Clone Wars characters, along with just a metric ton of plastic terrain.
Mm.
So spent a lot of time building terrain this
And
week.
that's all in 40 millimeter, right? That's like the slightly larger scale.
That's just a slightly larger, yeah. So yeah, 40 sounds about right. Yeah.
Cool. Nice. I'll be interested to hear your feedback on what you think once you get some real reps in under the belt.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is this: I'm looking forward to painting the models. The models they were a pain to put together, but they're beautiful, and they're So it'll be fun to to give it a shot. So I've been looking for a skirmish game that I can really get into and that the kids can really get into.
Of course.
And hoping that this might be it.
Very nice. Well, it has been a productive hobby week for me. Let me tell you what, I was inspired after last week's show. So many things happening. So first of all, I got Commander Farsight, I think is his name, this guy.
Yep.
So he's all done.
Sexy.
Yeah,
Nice.
so he's got his neon pink. Speaking on the Tau thing, I also am now assembling the what is it? I'm mostly through
Riptide?
the boarding
Oh.
patrol, and now I'm assembling the combat patrol. Like most of the boarding patrol is painted.
Combat patrol.
Whatever the names are, I don't know, man. But I assembled the stealth suits and one of the heroes, and I put this guy together, which is I think the ghost key or whatever. Man, this thing is so cool. It's like the coolest robot. Like I looked at these guys in pictures, and I was like, yeah, they're okay. And then I put him together, and he's really fun to put together. I really like the design on these guys. And I just think this is like one of the coolest looking robots. I got to get some more big Tau robots, like the real big ones, because I just think these are just super sweet. Everybody who watched the show knows I have a deep and abiding love for robots, and the Tau robots are hitting the spot. So I got those assembled. Oh, good.
KO Tau. Can you somehow manage to make that work?
I don't think that's gonna fit. No, that's fine. No, these are just for 40K, and I'm okay with it.
Oh, okay.
I also finished up a display piece, which is this girl. I had been working on her last week, but she's all done now. So got her all painted and ready to go. As you can see, we made a little nice, flowing lava base there for her and stuff like that, and she's coming up and born out of the fire. So didn't record anything on this one. This one was kind of just for me, to be honest. I was really just focusing in on skin and like really, really, really focusing in on getting this skin in a place where I wanted to be. There, we'll get as close as I can. There you go.
Pretty sweet.
So is that Liliana?
What's what?
Is that Liliana?
No, the actual piece. Oh yeah, it's a good thing. I should say what it actually is. So this is called Night of the Zombie. It's officially licensed from Patrick J. Jones, and it's from Mindwork Games. Mindwork Games makes really excellent display figures. Couldn't recommend them enough. They're awesome. I painted another thing from them that was actually like a water-themed piece. That's where the Cloaks video that I uploaded this last week came from. That's also from Mindwork Games. So did all that. And then, as well, that's right, we're not done yet, folks. Mr. Bullcastro, you mentioned him earlier. He had backed this Kickstarter full of like these display figures, and I didn't realize how big they were. But I started working on this girl, just doing some initial sketches. Like, look at This is Commander Farsight to her.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Okay. So she's in like 90mm scale.
Yeah.
And he sent them all to me. That was very nice of him to print those out and send them to me. These are just kind of fun things I'm messing with. But yeah, this is all, there you go. She's just, like I said, this is just initial doing some light sketches and studies and stuff like that. As you can see, she's like a druid with 2 little owlies that she's hugging there. They're on her shoulders.
Very precious.
My wife fell in love with this one and wanted me to paint this one for her. So
nice.
That's what I'm going to do. Pretty much that simple. And I think that's finally all the hobby. Now, that was in addition to everything else, of course. Like, you know,
I had to get Kathy to figure out a model that she wants painted that she can give to me. So that's, okay, I'll have to think more about that. Yeah.
That's also in addition to working on more stuff, of course, for Snarling Badger. Working on our next game and a whole bunch of other stuff going on and getting everything ready for our, as Tom mentioned, I don't know if he mentioned this might have been before we went live, whatever, getting everything ready for a D&D marathon this weekend. So I won't have much chance to hobby basically until we do this show next week. So so I'm getting it all in now. But it's been a busy week. I actually had a nice couple days, had the holiday, and I got to spend a lot of it hobbying. So I just, you know, went to work. It was great. All right, cool. With that, gentlemen, are you ready to talk about the G, the H, and the B, the General's Handbook?
GBH. We've talked about this. You said it wrong. GBH. Thank you.
General's Book Hand? What?
Yes.
No.
That's a very niche AOS Coach reference.
Oh, okay.
It's fine.
I missed that. All
Love
right.
you, Coach.
Anthony said he didn't expect any of those to be out of the box for a long time, if ever. Nah, man, they're all assembled. They're all in my shelf. And then as soon as I had them out and was looking at it, my wife came down and she was like, I really like that one. You should paint that one for me. And it's like, all right, well, guess that project order is decided. All right, let's talk about the General's Handbook. Okay, before I even get to the overview slide, let's just start with some key words. Okay? Magic. Anti-magic. 12-month season. All new battle plans. All new battle tactics. Same basic battle pack, i.e. the core rules. Okay. There we go. Those are my sort of keywords, right, that I would say. How long does it last? The full 12 months. Everything else is new in the actual functional stuff, and it's a magic versus anti-magic season.
Yep.
Okay.
Hope you're happy. You got your way. 12 months. You're not allowed. You're not allowed.
Magic DOMs.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And the monkey's paw curls. Yes, absolutely. All right, cool. Let's talk overview. As I said, this is a magic focus season. The focus is on, you know, magic and anti-magic, as always. As with most of these seasons, which side wins is, I guess, is left to be seen and can shift over time. My initial money is on anti-magic. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay? But we'll see. We'll see. Just as with the last 2 seasons, there are armies that are going to be left out in the cold here. Like, not everybody gets to play in this pool equally. As long as we keep this up, we're going to keep just having armies that just basically are slightly garbage in the current season because they just don't have the right rules to play in this kind of pool. And some of these spells, like the new spells, are really, really big. The spells, I'm going to say it this way, Tyler. I'm going to see what you think about this hot take. You ready? You ready?
All right.
Okay. The spells are the bounty hunters of this season. Thoughts?
Maybe one spell. Yeah. Probably closer to true than not true. Okay. I don't think we're not full on bounty hunters, but closer to true than not true.
Yes, it's not a 1-to-1 because, like, you take bounty hunters, it's not much you can do to counter that out of your list building phase, right? You either have the thing that they're destroy or you don't.
Yeah.
Whereas the spells, obviously, spells are that. Now, one thing I'll say here is, Matt, the reason I'm not excited about this season, I'm going to be straight up with everybody. I actually think there's a lot of good stuff in this season, but I'm not excited about this season as a whole. And the reason for that is very simple. I don't think Magic in AOS is a very good system. I think it's the swingiest, most unevenly distributed system across the game. That is it's the highest impact, most unevenly distributed thing. And
would you say more? Hold on. Would you say more so than Battletome Battle Tactics?
Yes, because it's much more impactful.
But if you're using those, they are more unevenly distributed of haves and have-nots.
I think they're at least as equally distributed, if not not as bad. There are like the best Battletome Dom, Battletome Battle Tactic Dom dunks 2 for free, maybe 2.5 free.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The best spell Dom casts every spell, and does not get stopped outside of auto dispel.
Right, but that doesn't determine game. Like
I've watched Caleb play Zinch. I disagree.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that Magic can also, I don't know, like I would push back about.
You would say Magic can also do absolutely nothing? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
I completely agree. That's why I said it's a completely swingy, ridiculous system. Unless you're like, if you're a spell dom, and in one of those few chosen forces, your Magic's not swingy. Your Magic is incredibly reliable by the standards of that system. Right? It moves into the bounds of like attacking on 2s and 3s.
Of course.
You don't hit every time attacking on 2s or 3s, but you're reliable enough.
Yes.
Okay. But everybody else, Magic is just like an all over the board system. You could have, like, I've had whole games of just average Magic armies where I just don't cast a spell. Not because everybody unbinds it, but because I'm like, need a 6, got a 4. Need a 5, got a 2. Miscast. Great. Okay, my Magic's done. Right? And then next round I'm like, fail. And then I get one off, they're like, they roll and they unbind it. I'm like, cool, 2 rounds down, no spells, right? That's a very common experience.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So what I'm saying is, the reason this is a foundation of sand, we have decided to build an entire season on.
A year-long
argument. Yes. Now, that doesn't mean I think it's bad. I actually think there's, as I said, I want everybody to hear me really clearly. I think there's a lot of good stuff in this season. We'll talk about it as we go through it. But this castle is built on sand, and the ground underneath it will shift a lot. That is what I will say. Okay. All right. So that's my quick overview. Tyler, what's your initial 40,000 foot view? Then I'm going to go to you, John.
Well, okay. So you do you? I'm not watching the stream. Do you have the slide up where do you have the overview slide up?
I have the overview slide up.
Okay, right. So you've got here, as with most of these seasons, which side wins is left to be seen and can shift over time. My money is on anti-magic. Maybe before I say anything, you haven't really said anything about why your money is on anti-magic and what you mean by that. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, it's more generically good. There are really powerful anti-magic factions in. It shuts down the spell person who can like dunk with the new spells, just blows through 4 opponents and then hits the hard anti-magic and loses almost instantly. Like the game suddenly flips to them being like 30% chance to win. Like all else being equal.
By anti-magic, are you talking about armies that have like negation on a 5+, or what do you? How are you?
Specifically, Khorne, the We're Magic Proof OBR. That's really the big one. Like the We're Magic Proof OBR, just knocking down attack spells on a 2-up is like pretty darn good. But like Khorne especially also has lots of good abilities to interact with magic in negative ways. The skulls, they have auto unbinds, they're highly resistant to magic, and it feeds their blood tithe. Like, you know, there's a lot of like Khorne has a lot of powerful tech. OBR has a lot of powerful tech. Like, and then you still have the problem of if you run into other spelldoms who might outdo you, right? Like you're rolling hot until you get into the Seraphon guy who's even better than you, right? So, like, you can get it from both sides. People can run to your left or your right and beat you on your strat, is my point. Okay.
Yeah. My pushback would be, I think that there may be play in augment like augmentation magic, which will basically completely ignore the OBR like stuff.
Sure.
So like I think about those that are playing in the spaces of like self buffing, even like Horfrost, even that one.
Oh, we're gonna talk
like,
about the best self buff in the game. Yep, sure.
Right, like you can turn that on yourselves, and that kind of anti magic doesn't play well. Like Khorne still plays well, but like the OBR super negation doesn't do anything against.
Sure, I mean a bunch of Stormcast dragons with 2 Knight Incantors. Seems like a pretty good list. 4 up spell ignore on your whole army and 2 auto dispels.
In general, yeah, 2 Knight Incantors plus the Antorian Acolytes Battalion probably is pretty interesting to order in general as an allies option. So overall,
anyways, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why my money's on anti-magic, to actually win out at the end.
Okay, so I mean that's broadly defining anti-magic is where broadly defined anti-magic winning out is where, or certainly being elevated is where my mind is at, and that's been my experience at least so far. It's only 2 games, but that was my read, and that has been my experience so far in 2 games. One, pure Nullstone Adornments, no wizards. The other, a Knight Incantor and a Lord Arcanum Griff Charger against Tzeentch, with a pretty good Tzeentch list. And so there's a lot of nuance to that, which I don't necessarily need to get into right now because it involves like getting into the details, right? So I can sit on that. But I think as usual, in political economy terms, the class curve here is going to be a little more flattened. There will be a little more equity in the ecosystem, a little less inequality. I can see an argument in some ways the rich get richer, but in general, I do think the inequality will lessen. The middle class will get stronger.
Oh, wow. Completely disagree. This is This is full on feeding money to the billionaires. Like this is 100% the rich get richer. As I say right here in the text, if you're picturing you doing this stuff, okay, like, oh, look at these sweet spells, I'm gonna do them. No, you're not.
No. I'm talking about unbinding. Unbinding. This I'm specifically thinking about
for
unbinding.
The equity of unbinding.
Yes.
Sure, we'll talk about that when we get to PMD and how.
I think
maybe
unbinding is the interesting part, and a lot of what I think of inequity or of equity increasing in the ecosystem is on the unbinding side.
Yeah,
sure. That's probably enough for now.
Another reason why I think anti-magic is going to win out, because in the end, you're way more incentivized to use them for unbind than you are for casting. But anyways, go ahead, Tom. I don't want to jump all over your thoughts.
No. I mean, I think that, like, I think that I would agree that your spell doms are going to take over. Like, they're just going to get, those in the middle class are just going to get dunked on.
Yeah.
Because of those, because they are fighting a battle on 2 ends. They're fighting a battle against the anti-magics on one side and against the spell doms on the other.
Yeah, sure. Completely dunked on. Like, your magic is if you're a middle class magic army, like maybe you got one guy or girl with a +1 to cast, forget it. Magic isn't a thing for you this season. That's over.
Right.
Turn that off. That doesn't count anymore. You don't do that.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Again, I don't know. I mean, to me, you're making 2 arguments. You're talking about the swinginess that is so inherent to the system, while also I'm hearing you convey like a sense of highly deterministic outcomes.
Sure,
because what is going to happen here.
Don't get me wrong. I am using hyperbole. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm talking about it like it's a foregone conclusion. But what I mean is like the number of spells you will get off per game will drop dramatically, percentage-wise. Period. If you're in the middle class, like it will drop like a rock. Will you still occasionally cast spells? Sure. When you have 2 middle class, when the middle class fights itself, as it were, right?
Yeah.
Then it's gonna be an interesting game with like where the PMDs actually do something. But the number of people playing anti-magic will go up. So hence, that's just going to increase in the ecosystem. So you will run to that more and they will shut you off. The number of spell doms will increase because they want to use their strat and they will shut you off. So both of your natural enemies who are going to stop you from doing, oh my God, Tom, turn off everything that dings. Shut off your other crap. How hard is it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mute your phone, turn off your other apps. I swear to
I don't-
Jesus.
I don't think it's me.
Great. It's great prank, Tom.
It is
It's great
most
prank.
definitely you. Okay.
No, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Now, so that's my point. If you have like a good old fashioned, Iron Jaws on Nurgle fight, it's gonna be an interesting time with PMD. Like what a great, that's gonna be a fun game.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like that's gonna be people using Primal Magic dice and just going nuts and having a weird old wacky time. Right?
Yeah.
But like that is not gonna be the norm, as it were. Okay. All right, let's get into the details because we keep talking details, but we're not there yet. All right, let's actually explain to everybody what we're talking about here. Rocky says it was his phone. Darn it, Rocky! Jeez.
See, I told you it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna shaggy it.
Arrested at the Waffle House said more dings, louder dings. I veto arrested at the Waffle House's vote, despite how good his name is. As I've said many times, the absolute best name on YouTube right there. Like, dude, if you ever actually make a channel, or if you have a channel, you need to tell me, because I'm going to subscribe immediately. I don't want to talk about anything. I just want to be subscribed to Arrested at the Waffle House. All right. Basic battle pack rules the same, i.e. like points, required units, allowed units, all that. Reinforcement points, yada yada. All that crap's the same. Cool. We can move past that. All right. Wizard heroes with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less that are not unique become an Andtorian locus. Oh boy. Do we have to make these words impossible to pronounce? Is that just the goal every time? Okay. So they become an AL. They become an Andy. Andes. I'm going to call them Andes. There we go. They become an Andy. So remember, Andes can't be unique. Can't have more than 9 wounds. Okay.
You guys have Andes in Ohio? Frozen custard? Andes frozen custard?
No, we have a thing. No, we're dominated here in Ohio by a thing called Wits.
Ah, okay. All right.
Quit with an H. Okay. Optimal focus. At the start of the battle round, after priority is determined, the player taking the second turn can pick one friendly hero on the battlefield. If it's an Andy, you get to attempt to cast 1 extra spell and unbind an extra spell in that battle round. If they are not an Andy, you get a command point that can only be spent to allow that hero to issue a command. Okay, so here we have our first incentive for going second. I'm going to put a pin in that for now. We're just going to pin that right up here in the corner. I want everybody to just picture a little thing that says this is a pretty decent bonus for going second. When we get to the battle plans later, this is going to become relevant. Okay. All right. So that's the basics of like the basic realm rules. Let's talk about who our winners and losers are. Potentially. Okay. So I've got some potential winners and losers here. I added this slide since I sent this to you guys. Suck it. That's what I do. Okay. Potential winners and potential losers. Potential. Grayseer. He can cast on 3d6. It's pretty easy for him to actually get like bonuses to cast in various and sundry different ways. So that's pretty great. And yeah, he's good. He's a good dude. Like he can cast on 3d6. I don't know what else to say. So, it's good. Anybody who can cast on 3d6. I couldn't find a picture to represent Kabbalists, but you can just figure that they're in there too. I thought if I put up the logo, no one would know what the logo is for them, but Kabbalists. 3d6 wizards, of which here I'm using the grace here. Right. The blue scribes. Oh boy, the blue scribes. Who can once around just be like, cast a spell on a 2-up. Now they are, blue scribes are, hold on. Are they, yeah, because are they unique? I couldn't remember.
They are.
They're unique.
I believe so.
Yeah, they're unique. So they're not an Andy, but they can cast a spell on a 2-up. Great as part of an overall strat. So they're not going to be your Andy. Okay.
Right.
but they're a great piece. The reason I still think they're a winner, let me explain, because they're not an Andy. I was like 99% sure they were unique when I put them in here.
Mm.
Is because people are going to have a bunch of auto unbinds. Yeah?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
And they can push through your one spell.
Correct, because it can't be unbound. So, like, what I'm using for them is I'm using them to force through, like, the Zinch spell I want. Okay?
Yep.
And then I don't have to worry about my opponent using Primal Magic dice to try to unbind me. Is everybody with me now? Because specifically when they do this on a 2-up, it can't be unbound. What's the unbind target? Impossible. It says it cannot be unbound. So that's why I think they're really strong, right? So things that both either cast real high or things that just cast on a number and hence ignore Primal Magic dice being more potent in unbinding. Okay?
Right.
Okay. Cool. We all understand there. All right. No, I'm not picking Hollow Heart because I don't know what Hollow Heart does. Like, Hollow Heart will have a new book in 5 seconds. So, I mean, like, I know it does now, but
Hollow Heart's not a real thing.
Right. Like, almost no one's playing Cities, and Cities won't have its existing rules for more than, another, almost nothing as far as time goes. Because I would expect that book will be out in, like, I would expect that box to release in, like, August, probably. So, I mean, you'll have, like, 4 to 6 weeks. So, it just doesn't count. The Knight Incantor, who is an Andy for their own casts, but also has an auto unbind. They come with a Dispel Scroll. So that's pretty good. Again, like, what shuts off somebody using a ton of Primal Magic dice to get a really high number as long as they don't roll 2 6s? We'll talk about Primal Magic dice in a moment, what the heck I'm even talking about. But somebody who auto unbinds. So.
Yep.
There you go. And then
I also like the Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger this season a lot, specifically in relation to the Grad strategy, keep a wizard alive. He's got a built-in teleport, 8 wounds, 3-up save, nice spell, healing spell. Just, I think it's a nice option for Stormcast in my mind. And also an Andy. Does not fit in the battalion, the Acolytes battalion, but can have everything.
Sure. And then the Slann. I mean, the Slann is like an absolute wrecking ball house in this season. My God, that fat frog. Like, if there was ever a season meant for him, he is domination. I see a lot of people talking about, like, the power of say, +2 to unbinders or something like that, or +1 to unbinders. I don't think that's anything. I really don't. I don't think that matters for anything. Primal Magic dice will when they're used, be pushing your number, your cast number up by an average of 3 for every die. Okay?
Right.
So, like, unless your bonus to unbind is absolutely massive, right, then it's not doing enough work for me. Because all of the casters who are going to dominate are going to be casting on either way more dice or having giant bonuses, right, or both.
Yep.
So just, like, being a cool dude with a +2 to unbind, like, that's neat. It's a neat trick. You might be good for normal spells. You're not going to do anything against the actual people, against the spells they're trying to power out. Okay.
Yeah. I'll wait until we do go through the primal dice in terms of giving more.
We got a lot to unpack
there.
Potential losers of the end of the Andy fight. Fire Slayers. I'm using them here kind of to represent just armies that don't really have wizards, like, of which there are a couple. I mean, so aren't really playing here. That doesn't necessarily make them a true loser. Like I said, if the anti-magic wins, and hey, I guess the age of that, they still have that spell banner that's like a 4-up spell ignore, right? That still exists?
They do. They do. Yes.
No, the Hades, the wizard, can be mounted.
Yeah.
It's just 9 wounds or less, can't be unique. They can have a mount. They can be on a bird, or a dog, or a something. So, there you go. Yes, we are still in Gur, Eric Dowdy. And then I have the Iron Jaws here, but again, they're standing in to represent armies that just have, like, completely average, nothing special casters, right? Like, you've got a wizard, they don't really have any. You've got some wizards, they don't really have bonuses to cast. Like, I could use Daughters of Cain. I could have put Doc in that same position.
Doc, Night Haunt, like all of them have spells that they want to get off, and none of them are going to get off spells this season.
Right, exactly. Like forget all of that. That's done. You don't cast magic anymore, right?
Yep.
So like, nope. And then Sons of Bahamut, who just are again who have like don't even qualify in any way because of the nature of their army. So it's just like whatever. It's not only do you not have any locuses, you don't have the ability to really get at them outside of anything really. That's basically it. And you know, some of these spells are just gonna absolutely be incredibly impactful to you. Like I don't like Suns. You just get dunked on so hard by people leaning heavily into this magic that's in this season. A lot. Now, Suns will still have... Oh, sure. Kelly says, I ain't counting Suns. They appear to just ignore GHB and get a 50% win rate. Yeah, sure. Which will probably persist. Because it's really easy for Suns to constantly be between 2-3 and 3-2. Hence a 50% win rate. Because they win by just standing there. They're not good games. They're not fun games. The player doesn't kill anything or do anything. It's just they get 2 easy wins because they walk up, stand on whatever the scenarios are where they can just stand there and win, and then they stand there and win until they die, and that's it. What a great time, right? So like that doesn't make their army not an incredibly painful and awful experience to play in this time. So there you go. Okay.
So on again, like Fire Slayers, what does the Ash Cloud Rune do, Tom? Ash Cloud Rune?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've played Fire Slayers.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, I mean, my sense of them is that they're in that. Maybe I missed it. I was just trying to research a couple things. They're in that category of, again, if they really need the extra anti-magic, 2 Incantors and an Acolytes battalion, there you go. Like, and they already have, as far as I know, they have a number of existing ways.
They have some decent anti-magic tech built into them. Yes.
Yep.
I wouldn't call like they're not Khorne, they're not OBR or whatever, but they're no Myriad OBR, but they've got stuff. They've got
yeah. So I don't know, have a hard time seeing them in the losers category. Depending, I may have missed how exactly you were defining that, but I mean
potential losers.
Okay. So the Ash Cloud is a once per battle in the enemy hero phase, and when you trigger it, units wholly within 12 of the bearer are not visible to enemy units attempting to cast spells. So it basically shuts them off as potential targets for 1 round from enemy spellcasters within 12.
Or you could just play in one of the battle plans. Okay. Yeah, I mean, my thing with Fire Slayers is, like all the rest of this, is I don't know how it'll shake out. Like, if Anti-Magic wins and rules a day and really, like, Andes aren't doing anything or going anywhere and not really seen, then Fire Slayers will be fine, right? Or if there is not enough of it there that their Anti-Magic tech can hold them, they'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, as you mentioned. So, but I was more using them as a stand-in for, like, people who just don't really have wizards, or you have to ally them in and stuff like that. Like, you know, that's kind of less appealing for how much you get to play in this season as an Andy, right? Okay. All right. Cool. So these are your potential winners and losers of the Andy world. Okay. But let's talk about these primal magic dice, because this is really the story, right? This is where it is. Okay. Yeah. Several things I want to talk about here. Let's go through the rules first. At the start of the hero phase, both hero phases, that is to say, like, it's going to happen twice per battle round, both players roll a dice. That doesn't actually matter. It's just 2 dice need to be rolled. Anybody could roll it. Your friend could walk up to the table and roll 2 dice. It's literally completely irrelevant what human being rolls the dice. For each 4+, okay, each player receives 1 primal magic dice. So as distributed, they are distributed equitably. So if both players roll a 4, both players get 2 primal magic dice. If one player rolls a 4 and one player rolls a 1, both players get 1 primal magic dice. And so on. I assume we can all trace out the third fact pattern here. Okay? All right. After a player attempts to cast or unbind a spell, or after a player attempts to dispel an endless spell, they can roll one of their primal magic dice. If they do so, add the result to the casting, unbinding, or dispelling roll. That player can continue to roll additional primal magic dice until the caster suffers a primal miscast, i.e. has 2 1s showing anywhere on all the dice they rolled, or there are no more primal magic dice to be rolled. Abilities that allow you to reroll casting, unbinding, or dispelling rolls must be used before primal magic dice are rolled, and if you reroll your casting, you can't use primal magic dice. So people like the Contorted Epitome or Master of Magic type of stuff, all that kind of thing, it's a non-bow with your PMD. Doesn't mean those abilities aren't good. You're not going to use PMDs on everything, and I imagine people will still have Master of Magic and rerolling type stuff. They'll just use it for their other spells, and they won't reroll when they want to use their PMD. Like, it's pretty simple. If you primal miscast, i.e. if your casting roll includes a double 1, the caster suffers a primal miscast, which is D3 plus 3 mortal wounds, and everybody within 3 inches of them takes D3 mortals. When you get double 6s anywhere, the spell is successfully cast and cannot be unbound. In both cases, you don't get to cast any more spells in that phase. However, if you do primal cast, if you, irresistible force or whatever we're going to call it, both players do receive a primal magic dice. So basically the kitty refills. Yes, PMD is primal magic dice. Yes. Okay. Them's the basics. Now let's talk about implications, boys. This is what we've been waiting on. First of all, I believe in my heart of hearts, these will be FAQ'd to just be a modifier to your spellcast, not part of your spellcasting roll total. There are way too many spells there are way too many things in the game that will go wonky if this is generating your casting roll. Okay,
Right.
Oh yeah.
Soulblight, Techless.
Soulblight.
There's a ton. Yeah.
There's a lot. Like, it goes on and on. We could start and just not name them for the next 5 minutes. So, like, for the sanity of the game, these will just be FAQ'd to be a modifier to your cast, I'm sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk implications. Tyler, what's the initial implications that jumped into your head?
Yeah. So, like I said, that looking at this as written, I think it does have more differential advantage for unbinding than casting. How much? I don't know, but some amount. There's various factors to that. So if you're an unbinder, you get full information, right? They're doing their casting. Okay, you get a 7. They have to decide a 3 and a 4. They have to decide, am I going to use a primal dice? Okay, I'm going to use one primal. Right? Then they stop. You get full information.
Yep.
There's a more inherent disadvantage or risk, opportunity cost with casting, where you don't care about if you roll a 1 or a 6 for that matter when you're unbinding, but you do, of course, when you're casting, right? Especially a 1. So that inherently is a rate limiter on the use of primal dice as a caster, not so on an unbinding. Those are just a couple of initial things that really stood out in my mind.
Let me hit you with another one.
Yeah.
You're going second in the battle round. I'm going to touch that pin up here, okay? You already have an advantage because of the thing we talked about before, right?
Right.
There's going to be a lot of advantages in battle plans as well, okay? You now know the total number of primal magic dice that exist in the world, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the start of the hero phase, you generate these dice, right? Also at the start of the hero phase, you dispel endless spells.
Yep.
Okay? You can use these on dispelling endless spells.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, like, we're not going to talk about endless spells this week because we don't have the points for the endless spells tonight. Like, they have new rules and stuff, but without the points, it's a completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
You might say it's a pointless conversation. But we'll talk about them once we have points and stuff, which I assume will come basically with the official launch of the book and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how endless spells actually ever get used. Because if I'm going second, which, like, the incentives to go second are just stacking and stacking and stacking in this season, right? Because if I'm at the bottom of the round every round, not only do I get to just get the extra Benny from the thing above, like an extra cast or unbind or whatever. Right. Or an extra command point if I just want that. I have a bunch of bonuses in the battle plans, and I can now know, like, my opponent's not casting any more spells this round. Right? It's my turn.
Sure.
Yeah? So, like,
Yeah.
if I don't have a distinct plan to use Primal
Grip
Magic
him
dice
and
to
rip him.
cast,
Yeah.
then I'll just blow all your endless spells off the table. Easy peasy. Almost automatically. Because endless spells just, like, with their cast numbers, like, we were relying on the fact that you're generally rolling 2d6 against their number to get them off the board, which is, like, sometimes hard when they're a 7 or an 8 to cast or something. When I get 3d6 or 4d6 against your endless spells, like, they're gone instantly.
So yeah, I mean, the devil's in the details on that, which we'll get into. When we see the endless spells, we'll have a better understanding of all this. But broadly defined, there are a number of endless spells that have been boosted in very meaningful ways that can have their impact regardless of whether... That can have their impact as long as they get one turn to be on the board and do their thing. New Geminids, Pendulum running, Hero Phase teleports are going to be a thing potentially this season, right? If you have some way, Hero Phase teleport, if you're going second, especially, you can do 2 spells. If you just have a base 1, you could do, like I mentioned to you, right, the Skink Stars here could, if the the heroic action teleport is a thing, we'll see tomorrow, presumably, whether that's still a thing or not. But right now, you could, if I understand it, heroic action that guy, teleport him, pop Celestial Doom, take away a ward, and then pop Pendulum or whatever it might be to do. So anyway, I think there are a number of examples like that where you can have real meaningful impact regardless of whether they get dispelled in the next turn.
A fair point, but nonetheless, you have to agree with me that this says endless spells don't stay on the board for more than, like, your turn where you cast them.
I think that's generally fair, yeah.
Okay.
Well, not only that, like, heaven forbid that they are on the board, because if they're predatory, they may still eat, like, a Sever or whatever the new spell is that makes them so that they're uncontrollable.
And also battle tactic nonsense. Like, I really think endless spells are such a massive risk to use in this season. I really do. We'll talk about it as we keep going. But, like, in my mind, okay, what this season so far, and, like, reading so far, I'm like, if I was approaching this the first time and I read up to this point, right? In my head, the logical incentive that I'm going to respond with is I want to play an army that has some good anti-magic options, and I don't want to worry about casters at all, and all these dice are just free things to shut off their best tricks. And if I can back in an auto dispel into my list as well, A+, I'm good to go. Like the aforementioned Dragons Double Knight and Cantor list, I'm just like, yes, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. All right? Because then the dice are all upside to me. I either don't care about them if we get none, or they're pure Benny if I get some. I can use them to shut off all my opponent's best tricks. I don't need them at all. I'm not relying on them, right? And I have a bunch of built-in defenses against their best tricks. Like, this is one of the reasons I'm saying anti-magic. Because the incentive is so much easier to use this as unbind.
Right.
Yeah.
But then near the start, you were saying that you asked me, what do I think about the idea of that the spells, specifically the realm spells, which are only available to Antorians, are going to be the bounty hunters or the approximation bounty hunters. Okay. So how is that squaring? I mean, maybe
with that thing I just said, because I was talking about what I like to play, not what other people like to play. And I don't generally like to play Spelldom armies. Like, I think Spelldoms using those things will make people feel like, holy crap, I just got punched in the face hard. Right? Like, that's what's going to happen. That's why I'm saying that. Again, it's not... you're right. It's a closer to than the other thing. Like, again, I'm not trying to make a full-on comparison. I'm saying it feels closer to that than the other way around.
Yeah, okay. So maybe real quickly, one mini game that I've noticed in terms of the if-then conditions, if-then, then this, and that, in the first 2 games so far has been, so first game against Siege. I was always going second, just for the sake of going second to get the benefit, regardless of board state, going second. Okay, so I could get up to 4 unbinds with 2 single unbind casters, an Incantor and a Griff Charger, Arcanum and Griff Charger, right? So I do going second, and I do Heroic Willpower with Vandus or somebody else, some other hero, right? Okay, so I've got 4. I did not have the Acolyte, the Antorian Acolyte Battalion. Would like to get that in the list. I think that's going to be very prominent. We'll come to that. That's very meaningful. At start of each hero phase, you can get on a 3-up. You can get an additional one if you have 2 of your acolytes, 2 Andes on the battlefield. Okay, so against Tzeentch, what I was finding, the mini game was essentially, all right, I've got two options. I can either focus on the Tzeentch spells that my opponent's not using primal dice on, and then I primal dice against them to improve my chances of getting rid of them, right?
Sure.
Or I do what my opponent is doing, which is probably saving their primal dice or like their big Kairos spell through the spell portal, or like their key spell that they're really trying to get off.
Sure.
So I could play that game, and then it's like a game of whose primal dice is going to win out, plus any bonuses or whatever. And I'm at a differential disadvantage against Tzeentch because they're Kairos will change, they're matching the dice, so that's less. But that was the immediate mini game that I noticed in terms of playing it, which is partly what made me think that okay, there's some meaningful lessening of inequality in the game, because I've at least got more ways now to get rid of some spells. Not all spells, not even necessarily the biggest spell, because that's not necessarily the most attractive, but some spells.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I think in that kind, which is again part of like like I said, my money's on anti-magic winning out, right?
Yeah.
And why ultimately I think this might actually end up being a bad season for the casters, which would be in line with every other season we've seen. The infantry season was bad for infantry. The monster season was bad for monsters. Like, it happens every time. So it wouldn't be weird. But, like, if the logical incentive is I use the primal magic dice to basically unbind everything they don't use dice or don't blow out their roll on, right? Because Tzeentch is also casting with a bonus, right?
Right.
So the question is, how effective can I be doing that, and how much do they still, like, how much do the spells that they can still force through impact the game, right? Like, do they need those other dice? If they're making 10 spell casts a turn, right? Well, you ain't shutting off that many, right?
Sure. Right.
So, like, is that... I don't disagree with your statement. I just want, like, the question just becomes, how much of an impact is that?
Yeah,
right.
It's just, I'm right. I'm just referring to the prior baseline, which Tom said at the top. We were living in an era of true spell doms and everybody else. And like in that situation, I would have had much less chance in general to compete against their magic. Whereas now you've got more tools to at least curtail a little bit what they're doing.
I'll give you a maybe on that. Is my answer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well.
Tom, what about you?
No, I would agree with that.
Okay. Are there any other, like, natural, what do I want to say, secondary consequences we want to think about here with primal magic dice at this stage?
Well, I mentioned hero phase teleport, and I mean, I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're going for, but there's certainly a lot to be said in my mind about any army that can do hero phase teleports, right? Especially going second, and if you've got ways of getting more advantage in casting. So Skaven was the first one that came to my mind because of the way, as I understand it, Skitter Leap, Grace here, right? Skitter Leap, 3d6 cast, potential primal magic if fueled. They could then use the Gnaw hold to get out of dodge with the current rules as written. Correct. They don't even have to expose themselves. Okay, so, like, you cannot do that with a Lord Arcanum on Gryph-Charger as written. It's like a little fact that I think a lot of people miss for what it's worth. Like, the play would be translocate the Lord Arcanum on Gryph-Charger. You're going second. He blasts like Merciless Blizzard and a Pendulum or something. 12 just right in front of the enemy. And then he gets out of dodge with Ride the Winds of Theory. That's not possible, according to this fact, is at least my understanding of it. Thankfully, because that's kind of silly. But yeah, there are a number of wizards that I think could do that could be a real challenge. I mean, especially if you can get out of dodge.
Again, unless the anti-magic is the very strong play, in which case the risk it for the biscuit play there doesn't really do anything, right? Like, you roll up, you try to wombo combo, they just use their dice to stop it, and then you leave. And it's like, okay.
No, I mean, like, I think about them rolling up on, like, the Stormcast double Incantor, right? That Incantor's gonna be like, nah, dog.
Sure.
Like,
exactly.
You're not teleporting. Like, we're not playing that game here.
Right. Like, just shut off the teleport or shut off. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't counter the tutor. I counter the thing they tutor for. Make them waste multiple resources. But sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they can have the teleport. They just don't get anything at the end of it. Like,
sure.
They spend a lot of time making a rat go from here to here and then back to here. Like, I don't know. Good job.
I mean, secondary consequence, again, I know this is exactly what you're going for, but in my mind, there's an obvious potential problem with, I mean, this isn't anything crazy, the Warsong Revenant. I've already seen it in a Season of War battle report where if, it can pop off in a huge way potentially. I think Jordan had a 22, 26 hitting multiple units. Every 5 up is a mortal wound. I mean, that doesn't seem great for the game. So, like, anything that can potentially go off, and I mean, to me, it's like the Trog bomb right now. That's obviously, hopefully, going to get addressed tomorrow whenever we see the battle scroll. There's a relatively small number of things like that just it's the potential for it such an extreme. Not that it will always happen, but it just seems like a terrible reality to live in that you can have such an extreme potential be on the board in the first place as a possibility. Yeah. So there, like Skragrot's probably another one in terms of what he could do with Primal Dice.
Is it the unmodified casting rule?
Oh, that's
Skragrot's?
I guess, yeah, actually, if you make, I think that's right. I'd have to double check if he is, but I don't think the Warsong Revenant is right now. So even if it's rolled as a modifier, I think it would still go off right now on the Warsong Revenant's bomb. I haven't played So Nothing forever. Somebody who plays So Nothing can double check that, but yeah, Marty just mentioned Lore Seeker, great delivery vehicle for Blizzard, teleporting 3 away and cast on 3d6 plus 2. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, but again, like at the end of the day, 3d6 plus 2 against a lot of armies, they're just going to say no to that.
Yeah,
sure. But like, how this is going to be part of the swing. People are going to push into this. Like, let me try to this is the secondary and tertiary consequences, right? This is exactly what I'm trying to map out because, like, okay, so people push hard into like, can I? We'll talk about the spells in a minute, but can I do a big mortal wound bomb? Right. Can I teleport up and do a big mortal wound bomb? And then as anti-magic rises and these two, this irresistible force meets this immovable object, who surrenders? Right?
Vince, I think we're all three aligned around this is very likely to be the overall outcome. I've already noticed it in my list building and like in thinking through some list. It's like when you get into battalions, like with the end, we'll go into battalions, but it's like it suddenly creates some interesting things in terms of drop count and number of heroes that you need to have. Like if you want to go acolytes and warlords to get the extra enhancement, well, now you're suddenly at 5 heroes, and that potentially imbalances your list in the number of armies. You don't have enough troops, and then, but yeah, it's felt off when I've leaned too far into magic in a number of my lists so far because of the expectation of a certain level of anti-magic in response to the obvious play.
Well, and that's where where you can just like ignore spells on an X or whatever, or cause penalties to cast, or where like you don't have to use an active resource to do it becomes highly more valuable, right? That's what separates the anti-spell doms from the great ones from the average ones, right? When you can have stuff that's just like there and functioning, as opposed to you needing to blow the resource of an auto unbind. Like the auto unbind will stop the mortal wounds bomb, but it doesn't stop the other 8 spells they wanted to get off, right? But if you have like multiple things making them hurt their casting in some way, then now you're just effectively penalizing them all over the place and they're failing left and right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So Drew Bishop Sai says Alariel can use primal dice too, which I hope we address. The god units that are non-Andes shouldn't get to use primal dice. Thoughts? I mean, anybody can. It's not a caster. It's the player doing it. Like any spell cast or unbind or dispel can use primal dice. It has nothing to do with the caster you choose. It is a player attempting it, and the player chooses to use the stuff. So,
yeah.
I mean, there you go.
Injury. I tested primal dice with the Warsong the other day. I dealt 57 mortal wounds in the casting phase in a single turn. Yeah, that seems probably a little bit off.
I like my money would be something like that gets addressed. I mean,
sure.
So, like, I don't think they're going to just let a thing like that float around. So,
right. One would hope not.
They generally get pretty good at finding these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, I want to pause here before we go to the next section and start talking about the details to just make this following point. Man, this is the best narrative book I've read in a long time. And then, like, I want to do the joke where somebody comes and whispers in my ear, and I'm like, what's that? This is the normal event book? Oh, that seems weird. Okay. Because, like, these feel like what we should be doing for the next season of war, whatever.
Yeah, like weird narrative, like battle packs.
Yeah, like this feels so much heavier than what I need
Yeah.
for a season of Warhammer to play at events or in the General's Handbook or whatever, right? Like your general matched play battle pack, we've got to screw with the base rules of the game this much. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I appreciate, like, if you rocked up and told me this was the cool narrative thing you could do where you played in the wizard place and did wizard stuff, I'd be like, yeah, okay, great, cool, I'm good with it. What an awesome and unique, interesting narrative battle pack. I just have no clue what all this stuff is doing in the matched play standardized battle pack. Do we need this level of change year to year? Is this like the appropriate amount to swing the base game around? I mean, Tyler? Go ahead, Tom. Go. You had a thought.
Go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is this: like, it's way heavier than we. And we've talked about this because what this is doing is this is truly reshaping the landscape on a yearly basis for winners and losers, more so than points ever did. And we had this conversation, a year ago, 6 months ago, about just how heavy these battle packs were, to the point of almost being unfun, just because they completely invalidate play styles, they completely invalidate certain armies, or they marginalize them heavily. And so it's such a big swing for a season where people are trying to, if they're trying to get armies up to, top tier painted or whatever, it's real hard to do that in the 6 to 12, even 12 months, when some of these armies are going to be non-standard builds. They're not, this isn't meat and potatoes that we're talking about here.
Right. Like, you were talking about allying in all this crazy crap to stick with the thing. I'm like, is that how we want the base game to play? That, like, Fire Slayers to compete now just automatically have 2 Stormcast wizards following around? Like, is that the right level of change in the game? That feels weird to me.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's fair. Yeah. What do you guys want? Is there an elevator version of what you guys want? And you've probably said in the past, but in relation to this, okay, so you don't want this. What do you want?
Some really interesting battle tactics, battle plans, and grand strategies. The core thing. And then some realm rules. Sure, if you want to stick in the seasons and we're exploring the realms as part of the GHB, do that throughout the General's Handbook. Like, the General's Handbook, can we return back to having things for, like, lots of different types of play? I'm not going to use their modes of play thing, but, like, put in a whole narrative thing in there that's like, here's some stuff to further explore the current season. And then in the match play thing, it's like, okay, wizards get +1 to cast, and here's a magic item that can auto unbind a spell once a game, like a new realm artifact that does that. Once a game you can auto unbind a thing, and wizards have a 6-up ward. Okay, cool, magic season, got it. Like, that feels like a pretty light touch to me.
Yeah, they need to. It's the difference between, like, thick and thin. Like, they need a much thinner rule set for match play because it needs to have some degree of continuity between seasons.
Yeah, like, we're wildly swinging here. What like there are armies that will like, sort of your base percentage to rock up to the table and how effective that army is, that you will need to make massive changes to your army from, like, pre this GHB to now. Right?
Yeah.
And there are armies that, like, this won't impact at all. They're going to keep doing the same strategy. They're just going to keep doing the same thing. They'll just now be, like, way better at it. Right? And that's, like, when I say, like, rebuild your list, I mean, like, a lot.
I don't know. Well, we should, let's do another show where we look at that. I mean, when we get more information, and let's see what lists are looking like. I would bet that we're not going to see. Well, I think you could build a lot of lists without that significant of change. In some ways, the loss of Galatian veterans, in my mind, might have more impact in certain factions than this stuff. Where, like, now you're not going to see as many Volkite Berserkers, potentially, or Bladegeist Revenants, are going to not be able to be in big units because Gallivets is gone, and things like that I could see being more impactful. Maybe. But loss of Galatian champions is going to be impactful with now being able to snipe better or more back on the table. I mean, I hear what you guys are saying. Yeah, I mean, it gets into the whole argument about 6 months, 12 months. There are so many players who play this game competitively who get bored after 6 months, and I'm hearing actually quite a bit of excitement, at least personally out there, about this level of change and zaniness and craziness. Like, oh, this is the AOS that I remember from like earlier on. Like, yeah, let's do this. This is really interesting. It's a very different casting. So I'm certainly hearing some other viewpoints out there on all of this. But
it could be. Hey, look, tell me in the like right now. Hey, chat, you're out there. Voice your opinion. Have it be heard. Like, is this?
Yeah.
Do you want to see this amount of change, more than this amount of change, or less than this amount of change? Like, let's just do a, about right, more or less, season to season in the GHB, right? Like, sure. I'm curious. Like, I am in no way. That's why I've sort of phrased it as a question at the beginning, right? Because I don't know that my opinion is representative of the people on this. I don't know that I'm speaking for the proletariat, right? I'm speaking my opinion, and that's what I'm honestly asking. Like, is this the correct stuff? So, like, I don't know. Now, like I said, it's funny. I keep talking about this because there's actually a lot of stuff in this season that I do quite like, which we will get to. It's just I feel like this base rule stuff is so heavy. Like, there's FAQ questions and like everything with these primal magic and rolling all this stuff is like, oh boy, this is a lot of stuff going on, right?
Do you think this is a net improvement on the on the casting system of AOS? I know you've always had issues with the casting system of AOS. Is this a net improvement? Is this a wash? Is it worse?
It's worse. It's just exacerbating an existing problem.
Tom, do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I don't know. My first, again, I mean, if we went through the design process, if you guys were doing it, and then, I mean, I'm sure it could be better, but I find this to be more intriguing personally as a base, as the casting system, as a spell, a magic system we're going to have for the next year. I find this to be a lot more compelling, including because it takes, yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Tyler.
Yeah.
Did we need a subsystem for a subsystem?
Oh, I mean, again, we can make a first principles argument. I'm going to have a hard time. Yeah, okay. So if probably not. Like I said, there's probably a better way to design this than this. I mean, but we're kind of arguing, okay, if you would start at the drawing board and do it all over again. I'm more just saying, I'm not really having a first principles conversation. More, this is the reality. Is this reality better? Yeah.
Yeah, like I hear that, but I think that even like, yes, first principles, but even deeper than that, one of the things that Vince had highlighted, I think that I do want to put a pin on, is that this just doesn't touch everybody. So to make something the hallmark of the season,
I think that's fair. Yeah.
For some armies that it's just not a thing for them.
Yeah.
Really, like, there are armies that just don't have meaningful unbinds. So
right.
like they're just not. They're like
that's yeah. That's what he was getting at with his richer. The rich are going to get richer. Poor. That was the nuance. I think I agree with that. Unfortunately, that is definitely one of the downsides of this.
That it's just like we're in a new season, and some people are like, we are, right? Yeah. Because they don't like it. Like nothing changes about any of their play style or abilities. That and that's the problem when you design a subsystem for a subsystem, is that it's not going to touch everybody.
Yeah.
So just glancing over the comments that sort of flowed in, I didn't see a single vote for more. So if this is like what the comments, everybody who voiced their opinion, obviously a limited sample set and like whatever, but everybody said either this is correct for the 12-month season, and I like this amount if it's going to last a whole year, right?
Yeah.
Or I want less than this to, a lot less, something like that, right? So just from that very limited thing, and I would tend to agree, if anything, this is kissing the upper limit of like, we are at the asymptote of change here, right? This is as heavy as it could possibly be. I think that is for sure.
Right on. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you know where I stand on the whole complexity, simplicity discussion we've been having for the past 2 years now. that we need to be going in the opposite direction of where we've been for quite some time. So at the end of the day, first principles, like I'm obviously aligned with that. And Polcastro, your opinions are irrelevant for the rest of the night because you think the chalk bomb is fine. So yeah, man, just don't even post, buddy.
I mean, I'll answer Anthony's question, which is a resounding no. I cannot picture being like trying to explain this to a new person.
Yeah.
This is like opaque as, right? That's wild. This is wild. Okay,
Right.
So here's how magic works. All right, do you remember? Did you learn all that? Okay, cool. Now there's this other thing. Here's a homework assignment. Read about primal magic dice. Like, oh my god. Like,
Sure.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, cool. So now let's move on to the other sort of supplementary elements to this. So we start with it, which I actually like how they designed a lot of these things. Like here we get into stuff I'm actually quite positive on. Which is, so unique enhancements. Can only be taken in an army that does not include any wizards or any units with abilities that would allow a unit to cast spells in the same manner as a wizard. This kind of stuff I like. Good. Neat. Nice that you can't give it to the wizard people and have them play both sides of the aisle there. I'm for that.
So yeah, here's your well-being program, Vince, or what we call the welfare programs.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
In this country. Okay. All right. So how good did we do on these benefits?
Yeah, exactly. So the hand-carved nullstone icon, bad. Cool. Neat. We just talked about how people are going to be casting and the amount of spell doms, and you're like, yeah, boy, let me get in there with that raw 2d6. I'm going to get that spell. No, you're not. You ain't unbinding anything.
Well, anecdotal, so I'll be quiet, but it's certainly not been my experience so far in running this.
Sure. Sometimes.
Again, that mini game of where you are not.
You're not taking any wizards to get this. Right? So you're going to have this unbind and your heroic discipline or heroic willpower, whatever it's called. The thingy that lets you unbind, right? That's what you're going to have. Plus, potentially, like if you're clever and you have priests that can unbind or corn dogs or whatever, right? Sure.
Yeah.
But like I'm taking an item as opposed to anything else to get one more 2d6 roll, right? Now I do get primal dice on this. You're absolutely right. I could choose to use primal dice on this, right? But no, I'm just like, there's no way, man. With like, because I've got I can also use the primal dice on my heroic willpower, and I'm not going to have that many primal dice on average.
Sure. Yeah, because you're not taking. Yeah, the problem here is you're not getting access to the Acolytes Battalion, and I think that's going to be quite prevalent. Right. As a way of getting difference and.
I mean, stonks on heroic willpower have shot through the roof. Let me say that.
Sure.
As a heroic action. Okay.
This is fun. I'm being very disagreeable tonight. This is great.
No,
it's like good all of these episodes, you just hang back, Tom, and I just let this guy run roughshod over me with all of his strong opinions.
No, I appreciate Backbone Tyler. It's good.
That's right. Okay. The pouch of Null Dust. Once per battle, at the start of the hero phase, you can say the bearer will use their pouch of Null Dust. If you do so until the end of that phase, unmodified casting rolls that include a double 1, double 2, or double 3 are treated as miscasts, or if primal magic dice was rolled on part of the casting roll as primal miscasts. Roll a dice for each endless spell on the battlefield. On a 5+, that endless spell is dispelled. Yeah, it's not bad. It actually doesn't do that much mathematically, because it's not like... It's only adding double 2s and double 3s to the list. But it is interesting against somebody like Zinch who will sometimes very easily achieve double 3s and then still cast their spells on a 7, right? Or something. It becomes very funny. Like them rolling, say, a 3 and a 1 or something on 2d6 is like not that uncommon of an event. So turning that into a miscast is a especially is a pretty funny thing.
Does this force all Lords of Change to miscast?
No, because they roll a 4, they just immediately like pull themselves out of it, right? It's like it's only if they happen to only have like 3.
Ones, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah. Mathematically, this doesn't do that much, right?
What does do though is clearly meaningfully disincentivize using primal dice whenever this is up, in my mind. So
Yeah, oh, that I
like
agree with. 100%. Yeah, that's actually why this one's interesting to me, because of
yeah,
the soft incentive against using the primal magic dice. Because if
right,
your casting roll included, like, you're like, because I have to say this at the start of the hero phase, right? So Tyler, it's the start of your hero phase, right?
yeah,
You're like playing a Zinch army, and you're about to I know you've got like 10 or 12 spell casts,
yeah,
right? It, like, me blowing this on a turn when I don't really want you using magic, suddenly, like, is a huge disincentive to you actually using any PMD during that phase.
right,
Because if your regular casting roll, again, now we'll take the Lord of Change out of it, and somebody who's not manipulating the dice in some way, people who are just rolling, maybe even with big bonuses, right? +4
yeah,
to cast, who gives a crap, right? If your dice roll contained any ones, twos, or threes, suddenly
right.
adding more primal magic dice to the mix does meaningfully change the incentive to click that to punch that whopper button, right?
Yep.
Because you radically increase your chance of primal miscasting.
So and that was my experience. And again, I'll stop qualifying it, right? I understand it. It's one game, it's anecdotal, etc. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
but trying out Nullstone Adornments for S and giggles, I had Pouch of Null Dust and the hand carved Nullstone icon, and a extra. Let's see, no, because I had no wizards. Yeah, so I just had two unbinds in that game. Heroic Willpower, and the built-in one. Yes. Okay. So yeah, just what I was finding with that disincentive, at least when it went off, it did allow some meaningful bump and benefit with the Nullstone icon, where I'm using Primal Dice and they're not, to
Yeah,
help
yeah.
me then get multiple taps, right, of the
Yep.
Nullstone icon. So
Absolutely.
it's probably too limited, but it was some meaningful benefit with those conditions.
Okay.
Like in general, I don't think these go far enough as a well-being package, as an equity
Sure.
package.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't go far enough, but they're not terrible.
Yeah, I actually like this one the most, solely because I like the I like the way it screws with the incentives around primal magic dice. It basically
Yeah,
makes it so, um, you do have pretty strong control of the magic phase in a really interesting and unorthodox way, because it strongly disincentivizes them using the dice, unless their base roll already has, like, no ones, twos, or threes in it, right? They roll like a 4 or
right,
5, like, okay. In which case they were going to get the stupid spell off anyways, because they're just like, they're probably tripping off into supercast territory, right?
right.
So, yeah, um, that's actually my favorite one from the list because of that.
Mm,
By the way, this is another thing that can also just, like, incidentally dispel all the spells. Just talking about, like, endless
sure.
spells going away really easily. I mean, that's not the
Yeah,
benefit of it. It's on a 5-up, but it still just, like, can incidentally blah 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 just kill an endless spell, and it's like, okay, cool.
yeah,
And then the pebble. When this unit is picked as the target of a spell or abilities of an endless spell, you can roll a die on a 4+. The caster must pick another unit within 3 inches of this unit within range of that spell or endless spell's abilities to be the target. If when picking another unit, there are no other units within 3 inches of this unit and within range, ignore the effect of that spell or the effects of that endless spell's abilities on this unit instead. Okay. I'd like it better if it was just a 4-up spell ignore rather than shifting
Yep.
the blame, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
um, all right. So yeah, you just have to keep
You got to keep that
other
person.
units more than three away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thinking of big pieces, Frostlord on Stonehorn,
Sure.
Maw Crusher, etc. I know Maw Crusher has Weirden, but I mean, you could double up on Weirden
Sure.
and this. I think that's perfectly fine. Or Fasten in this, and yeah. So yeah, this one's interesting. If with certain pieces that could potentially really benefit from this.
Agreed. I agree. I do not dislike this one. I'm actually 2 out of 3 on this list. Like, the hand carved Nullstone icon, I just don't believe in, but I like I like the other two. I know
Yeah.
that runs counter to your experiences, but I like the other two. Tom,
Sure.
where you living?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Hmm.
Like, so
I
let
mean,
me
a
get
4-up
this.
spell ignore is not bad. You just have to not stand within 3 inches of anybody. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I'm not. And you have to build to not have a wizard in the army, and you have to use an enhancement,
Sure.
and like it
Well,
is
Tom,
not.
Tom, you get this for free. If you want an extra one,
I know.
you have
Yeah,
to
no,
use, and yeah,
Really, the trip into this is don't have any wizards.
don't
yeah.
have any wizards. Yeah, I know. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's great for Corn. Corn loves it.
Yeah, I mean, Corn's still sneaking wizards into their list a bunch, probably. I've seen a bunch of initial people throwing, like, sneaking wizards in, because that's still not a prohibition. There's still wizards you can sneak into that list.
Of course they are.
Stop them now. So, let's shut that
There
down.
should just
everybody.
be a thing that says, like, nobody's allowed to cast a spell here. Stop it.
Stop
What are you
it.
doing?
Yep.
What are you doing with your life?
As an aside, at this rate on our progress for our slides, we'll have a 10-hour show tonight.
Oh, we're gonna be
Love
fine.
it.
Don't worry. We're spending a lot of time
Love
here.
it.
We'll get through it. It's a lot of good discussion. Yes, as Kyle Nelson points out, they are compelled to pick their own units if your unit is only within 3 of their units, which is fun. Like it will go to their unit if it's like a big damaging spell, which is cool. It's fun. I mean, it means you just won't get targeted by the spell. Like no one's throwing a Hoarfrost at you on the 50-50 to wreck their own unit, right? Like that's just not going to happen. But then if that's the case, it's 100% spell ignore, so still successful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Brendan makes a good point, which I don't think we mentioned yet. It's a unique enhancement, but it's an artifact. Well, I don't think. Anyway, the point being, you cannot take an artifact and a nullstone enhancement, a nullstone endowment on the same hero.
Correct.
If they have an artifact, you cannot take a nullstone.
Yeah.
So yeah, good point.
All right, spells. Let's talk about it. These are some big ones.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So first off, or sorry, I said Hoarfrost. I meant Merciless Blizzard. I apologize. So first off, Hoarfrost. All right, look. Here's what I almost feel compelled to read this whole spell. This is a wild spell. Okay, casting value 8, range of 12 inches. If successfully cast, pick one friendly unit wholly within range, invisible to the caster. I just mistyped all over here. Tyler, where was your editing? I blame you. No, it's fine. Invisible to the caster.
Oh.
Pick one melee weapon profile on that unit's war scroll, and roll a d3.
Oh, whoops.
Change the 2-hit, 2-wound, or rend characteristic of that melee weapon to match the result until the start of your next hero phase. So if you roll a 2, you get to set the thing to a 2+, or rend 2, or whatever. Okay. Cool. Good stuff. Now, the relevant part here is you don't have to choose the characteristic until after you've rolled the dice.
Yep.
You have to choose the weapon first, but you don't have to choose the characteristic. Okay?
Yep.
So we saw this spoiled a little while back. This is one of the most powerful buff spells ever printed, if not the most powerful buff spell ever printed. I don't categorically remember every buff spell ever printed, but it's up there. It would be it's a Hall of Famer instantaneously. Hall of Famer in its rookie year. Okay.
Yeah.
The casting value of 8 just doesn't matter. Like, because again, this is why I say this is going to get done to you. Like, the spell dummy people who are thrilled to take this. Oh, I should state, these spells can only be taken by Andorian locusts, and this replaces the other spell that they would know. Like, they choose this instead of a different spell. So only Andes can take this. These spells are Andy only. And this can obviously be hugely impactful when put on units that are normally, say, making a ton of attacks, but hitting on like a 4-up or a 5-up, right? Say like your Kabbalists, and you're casting on 3d6, and you've got some Chaos Knights who annoyingly always hit on 4s.
Sure.
Now suddenly they hit on 1s or 2s.
Yeah.
That's going to be very impactful to the overall performance of those Chaos Knights. Right?
Right.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, big horde units, lots of attacks, grots or squigs.
Yeah, sure. Right.
There's
like
so many
who
examples.
Hit on 4s. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Yeah. Like, but again, unless you have somebody who can power this through, it's going to rarely happen. If you have somebody with a large bonus to cast, right, who can like generate high numbers, if you are a spell dom, this is a hugely impactful thing for your army. So looking at the overlap between like who's spell doming and then who has units that are going to benefit the most from this, that's where your power lies with Hoarfrost, right? Again, unless you're in a middle class versus middle class game, and then you're just like, we both got +1 to cast and unbind, let's do it, guys. Then like, cool, you just, swing for the fences. Somebody gets Hoarfrost off and just wrecks somebody because they go to Ren 3.
Yeah.
Right, like instant, like what a great day.
Real quick shout out to Warhammer_Rob on Twitter, Warhammer Rob. He had a great thread of different Hoarfrost combos. So if you're interested in getting ideas for what you can do with this thing, check out that thread on Twitter.
Yes, and Keith Rogers says, was your awesome hammer unit made balanced by having a bad to hit, a bad to wound, or a bad rend? Don't worry, I've got the spell for you. Yeah, I mean, and then Romulan said 30 Storm Vermin at Rend 3. Yeah, I mean, 100%. I'll also take 30 Storm Vermin hitting on 2s or whatever. That would also be fine. I'll take it. And like they actually have the Grey Seer to power it through. Keith, sorry, Mike says ghouls with Ren 3. Mike, put that idea out of your head. Who's casting in your army? No one. FEC doesn't have spellcasters. Not any to speak of that matter in this season. So unless you're going to go get in a fight with another middleweight, that spell ain't happening. You fight Ironjaws, you get Ren 3. You fight, like, most people, you don't get Rend. That's how it works. That spell only works against other middleweights if you're in that army. This is why I'm saying it will be done to you.
So who can push these spells out? Because your spell dom, none of your spell doms can push these spells out.
Sure they can. The Slann, the Grey Seer, like Skaven could accumulate quite a few bonuses to cast and roll on 3d6.
But what I'm saying is a lot of your standard like high bonus reliable casters are unique. Many of them.
Sure. I mean, Aslan's not, and he's at what, base +2, +3, depending on how you build the army?
Sure.
And he has an unlimited unbind range and.
There are a handful. But the reality is that most of your actual spell doms that are really throwing around spell power are not going to be pushing these spells out.
I agree. I think that's why I said most of the time what's going to happen is you're going to be an average caster trying to put this spell out and then like if you get lucky enough, it just gets shut off. Right?
Yeah. It just gets spiked. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Tyler, did we miss anything on Hoarfrost?
CW mentioned Haywo's tweet. In response to that thread, I mentioned the best combo I've found so far is successfully casting it on one of your units. That was Haywo's beautiful tweet in response to all this. So that's aligned with some of what we've been expressing here.
Sure. Yes, Branu, every single non-unique hero in Cabalist. Also an excellent shout out. Yeah. Let's see that S2D win rate come back up. I have a sense that people are going to suddenly, at least at the beginning of the season, we're going to suddenly see the sub-faction stats like go whoop and jump way up on one sub-faction. Just a general feeling I have for no reason. Rupture's crap. I don't care. Next. Tyler, would you like to defend Rupture? Do we have a disagreement here? The second spell?
Oh, to what degree people will lean in, will see more of the Caleb Walters TM Zine strategy of making your incarnate wild as soon as possible and then having endless spells. But like we were saying, if you're going to have endless spells being dispelled more often where they're not able to be eaten, then maybe that's going to be less likely to happen with incarnates, going wild. So I doubt it's going to be a huge issue, but that in general, anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about. If an incarnate is able to eat an endless spell regularly, it's almost impossible to kill, basically.
Sure.
And so it may not kill a whole lot itself, but it goes and tries to tie up as much of your army as possible and being an absolute pain in the ass. That's what Caleb did. That's what we saw some other people doing in Siege for a while, right? So to what degree could we see that generalized in the game? I don't expect it to happen, but it's a possibility and this spell can contribute.
To be clear, you're saying the actual use of this spell is not at all what it's clearly been printed to try to do.
No.
Right.
That's all pointless because it's a sideboard card. right?
Yeah.
Like, you can get this gloom out of my main deck, thank you. Okay. But if you're the only time you play this, you main deck this, is when you're trying to like destroy your own stuff. You want to turn your own things wild. You want to run your own incarnate wild, like whatever, all this wacky crap you're trying to accomplish, right?
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I agree.
Which we are a simple fact away. I would love to see it. We should have seen it a long time ago to fix this, because it's rather, sorry, Caleb, it's rather silly. He'd probably admit it's rather silly. But we're still enjoying this in the game. So
Sure.
There we are.
Yes, I like Rupture's there. I like, you'd have to, I can't imagine that given everything else we've talked about that's set against endless spells, and the fact that we haven't gotten a second incarnate, and the fact that we're going to talk about battle tactics in a moment, which or battle tactics, which make incarnates also risky. I do not see the world that evolves where people are main decking Rupture. I just don't. Now, the reality is we're about to talk about a command trait that maybe you get all three of these, right? You're taking the command trait to get Hoarfrost and Merciless Blizzard, right? And then you accidentally got Rupture.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then Merciless Blizzard, casting value of 12 and a range of 12. Big number. Most of the time. Not here. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range invisible. That unit suffers 4d6 mortal wounds. For each roll of a 1, who cares? You just did 4d6 mortal wounds. Shut up. Stop complaining. I would do this every time. And the range of the spell can never be modified in any way, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, cool. No Archon, no spell portal, no yada yada. Right. It's 12 inches. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of mortal wounds. I'm very glad to see this spell. There's a spell like this should have always existed, by the way. Not just in this season. I'm a firm believer this should have always existed. If Magic's going to be a wildly swingy system, then let's lean into it. Let's put some redonk casting value crap in there and let people swing for the fences. I'm not sure I love it in a season where 12 suddenly actually becomes a relatively achievable number regularly, but you know, I think Magic should sometimes have some real swingy weird effects. So I'm good with it. And you know, as you said, people will try to spellbomb this, right? They'll try to teleport people forward and Alpha Strike with Merciless Blizzard. And
they'll the command trait we're about to talk about, they'll take the command trait where they get access to all these spells, and they could do an endless spell on top if they're going second, right? Like, Hero Phrase Teleport, you're going second with just a one caster. Now you got two cast. So now you're doing Merciless Blizzard and an endless spell. And some of these new endless spells are pretty meaningful in the damage output. Like, yeah.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Let's keep going. Cool. So Merciless Blizzard, fun stuff. Command traits, you can choose one if the general is an Andy. Shaman of the Chilled Lands, as you know, all those three spells. Cool. Eye of the Blizzard is at the start of your hero phase on a 5-up. You get an extra primal magic dice. So that can tip the inequity if you really want to go that strat, which is interesting actually. Chilled to the Bone. You can it's just on a 34 on a 3+. That's very funny. On a 3+, you can ignore the effects of that. Nope, never throw good money after bad. Roll hard. Like that's a Tyler command trait. Okay?
Which one?
Chilled to
Eye
the
of the
Bone.
Blizzard?
No,
Chilled to the Bone.
That's a Tyler command trait. Tyler's over here trying to hedge off against weaknesses and stuff, trying to close off the risk. No, bet big to win big. Baby. It's throwing good money.
Step up your game, your game, Tom. I'm out Johnnying you apparently in this moment. Step it up, buddy. And
then Eater of Magic. Each time you successfully unbind a spell on a 5-up, the caster no longer knows that spell and may not cast it.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Now we're having fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a crazy.
I love this.
This is more. So this is more for my money on the anti-magic side, because actually, like you joke. I don't know if you're joking or serious, but I actually think that's really strong.
No, I generally think, I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, there'll be a certain class of competitive players that will decide the calculus on this is not in their favor. But I was 3 for 3 the first time trying this out, so apparently it's amazing.
we have talked about all of the incentive into running anti-magic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of the ways that primal magic dice should just be used to unbind spells. And you have argued you will be actually able to unbind a lot more spells because of whatever, depending on the situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if everything you and I have said in this show, all three of us have said in this show is true, then Eater of Magic is actually really good because you're going to be unbinding more. And if every round you pick off one of their spells, 1 to 2 of their spells, that's actually crazy impactful on the game in shutting off a magic strat. This is yet another reason why I think the anti-magic strategy is really strong.
Yeah, you have, like, in my mind, I look at this command tray list. So I've just been building Stormcast so far, not looking at anything else. But Stormcast historically, not a lot of options. So Master Magic was often a go-to. Less so now. Or certainly there are competitive options here. Shaman of the Chilled Lands is 1. Eater Magic is 2. These embody, in my mind, what you're saying, right? Do you think Shaman of the Chilled Lands is the one to lean into with the expectation of casting those spells, or the anti-magic? Is it pro magic or anti-magic, right?
It's Eater. It's
embodied
100%.
in this.
Feels so much better to me.
That's where I came down with all of this. And in terms of like a balanced list, I'm not leaning too hard because Khorne is out there, no Myriad is out there. Like building a toolbox list, a balanced list, which as we get into the battle plans at 2 a.m., we'll see that, you know, I think they really incentivize having balanced lists, having mobility, etc. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
I mean, again, a Salon with Eater of Magic, crazy wild. You set yourself up to be going second, in every round, where you're getting extra unbinds. Fantastic. Let's say you're already a double caster, now you're triple unbinding. You're getting 3 bites of this potential apple every round. This is nothing but money. Right? Killing their ability to Mystic Shield for the rest of the game, depending on how many casters they have. Crazy strong.
Poor LRL with Total Eclipse.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to shut off Power of Haish. Like, that unit can't cast it anymore. Suck it. Suck it, Sentinels. I hope you took the guy on the Antelope. Or whatever.
Number of people are pointing out the Salon. Yeah, obviously huge stonks on the Salon, seemingly this season with this. Although you really are taking a hit. I mean, obviously I can't remember the name of it, but the one that gives you extra cosmic power points. Sure. Something celestial.
I don't think I mean, my honest answer is I don't think I've always fully believed that the Mortal Wound Bomb thing is going to get corrected or be overrated in some way. This feels like a more balanced that just plays you better.
Yeah. So. Please get corrected. It's insane right now.
Yes.
All right.
Cool. All right. Core battalions. These are new core battalion options. They're capped at 1 each per list. You've got you got Andy Acolytes, 2 small foot heroes, 1 optional foot hero. Start of the hero phase, if there are 2 or more friendly Andy Locust units in this battalion on the battlefield, roll a die. On a 3+, you gain 1 primal magic die. So, cool. And then Wizard Finders of Andor, you get some bonus attacks against wizards. No. Nope. So now here's where I've had this argument in the bag, because you've mentioned this taking the Acolytes like a lot.
Yeah.
I'm harder on Bat Reg than I've ever been. I want to be 1 drop. I want to be hardcore 1 drop. Okay?
You need to determine who's going second.
Correct. Yeah. I'm going to touch that pin up in the corner, which is the power of going second in this season is so massive. And we haven't even talked about all of it yet. Okay? That I want to be 1 drop and set myself up to make that decision as often as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And that's just not worth a 3-up primal magic die to me. No freaking way.
2 cracks at 3-up. So for armies that really care about it, I can see that. There are still a number of armies, I think, that don't care about drops. Or that they have other reasons to be more than 1 drop,
in my
right?
Skaven, I take Andorian Acolytes. I take the Andy Acolytes, because sure, why not? Let's go nuts, man. I'm like 15 drops already. Who cares?
Yeah, I haven't thought about. I'm so tired of Battle Reg in this game. Like, just nuke it. I can't stand it. So yeah, I haven't thought a whole lot about that, and yeah, but you could be right. What do you think, Tom? Does that add up in your mind? Probably still, for those who can do it, are still leaning into it.
I think it polarizes it. It pushes us back. So, like, I think about this in relationships like bounty hunters, right?
Yeah.
Bounty hunters with such a strong incentive to go multi-drop.
Yeah.
This just isn't. You get all your toys, and you can still be one drop, which gives you better decisions on your toys. Right? What I mean, like, because you get Primal Magic, you get to play in all those pools, the really powerful stuff, without having to give up one drops. And so I think that in general, this will become the purview of those that one drops aren't an option. This will become the default extra. This will not be something that people like build for.
Yeah, if you're a lot of drops, you take this. If you can be one drop, you are.
That would be a very interesting analysis. I mean, we'll see with Liz, but it would be very interesting to actually try to go through that analysis in terms of predictive expectations, because that could potentially further lean into the anti-magic case this season in the end. Where right, you have that differential of maybe Lumineth or Tzeentch or some of those armies that are magic oriented, that are going one drop, but then they're not getting the benefit of the primal dice, 2 cracks at it per battle round, 3 up, to in particular lean into the anti-magic even more against them. Something like that. I don't know. I'd be curious.
Sure.
But
my strong belief is you'll see battle red shoot up and you'll see high drop shoot up. It'll inverse bell curve it.
Yep.
Interesting.
Like as Kuhal said, imagine a world where people had to actually pay attention to how many drops they were.
Sure.
Crazy.
What a beautiful world to live in. Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's like, when was the last time that we were in the world where it's like, oh, your average drops are 4 to 6?
Yeah.
For 70% of the armies.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been seriously thinking about banning Battle Reg from Vault Wars just to see. Like, just for the sake of different. I don't know if it's a better world, but it's a different world. I'm ready for a different world. I'm so tired of it.
By the way, you asked what I'd like to see in the seasons. Something like that would be an interesting change. What I mean by that is like switch up the actual core battalions in meaningful ways that create different build structures. That would be a meaningfully interesting thing to do, rather than trying to like tell this narrative through match play rules that are way heavy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a match play pack. Make match play changes. I continue to believe we're just making a fundamental product management decision here, or misstep here, of misaligning our product with our personas. Like, that's what it comes down to. Okay. All right, grand strats. There's a lot of them. Okay. The ones that stand out to me, and I'll let you guys then also talk about what you like, right? But Slaughter of Sorcery, A+ choice for me, plays right into what I wanted to do anyways, okay? Which is like take no wizards, right? And then if I happen to play somebody else, if anti-magic wins and I play somebody else, so that becomes the more popular choice, they're also going to have Slaughter of Sorcery. I have Slaughter of Sorcery. Neither of us have wizards. We both get our grand strat, and we can just ignore this and move on. Like, you auto get it if they show up with no wizards, and you have no wizards.
That was my thoughts. Yeah, that was my thoughts too. Yeah,
fantastic.
Right, I ended up with this for no wizards. Yeah.
What a win! What a wonderful world.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I'm going to be trying to kill their stupid wizards anyways when they do have them. So,
sure.
Perfectly aligned incentives there, right? Now, the spellcasting savant is the other one. If you're going to do Andes, depending on how your ability to keep them safe, maybe that's went down, maybe it hasn't. I don't know. But that's holding back an Andy and just making sure they live. Like if you've got a frog or something like that, it's not bad. You're gonna try
bodyguards.
Right. If you got heavy bodyguards and all of that, exactly. Yeah. Yep. Those are the two that
it was. Me. Yeah, and then overshadow when the battle ends. This grand strat: if all enemy battle line units from your opponent's starting army are destroyed, and there's at least one friendly battle line unit from your starting army on the battlefield.
Sure.
So not quite as easy as the OG for third edition, but still, yeah, that strikes me as one that we might see as a third option. Tom, are there any others that stood out to you?
I mean, Bear and Icescape is bad.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, so on the other side of this, right?
Yeah, sure. No, it's worth mentioning how terrible it is. Yes.
Because sure, in general, people are going to be incentivized to have multiple items when possible. So if we do skew towards one drop, most armies will only have one unit that you need to kill here. But also keeping enemy units out of 6 inches of the center of the battlefield,
right?
That just may not be an option. If they have Archeon, good luck.
Sure, or just they get the bottom of 5. They just run to the middle, touch the 6-inch bubble, and deny your grand strat. Like, what an easy grand strat to deny, right? They just book it toward the middle with literally any unit.
Yeah.
It's so that gets a honorary mention for just bad.
Sure. I mean, I would also say Magic Made Manifest is really bad as well, just because of how much we've talked about how endless spells can go get wrecked, right? And again, so like you don't get the bottom of 5, they do. They just like, boop, okay, all those are gone. Cool, you lose your thing.
Right.
Yeah.
This is really a story of haves and have-nots in this season. Everybody's going to take Spellcasting Savant, Slaughter of Sorcery, and Overshadow.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's probably 3 out of 6 is, I think, more than we've had in last seasons. So, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it was pretty rough last season. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, not too bad.
In past seasons, we've gotten like 1 or 2 out of 6, or like 1.5.
Yeah, and mostly we've been living in Take What's Theirs and then book.
You doing Take What's Theirs? You doing Take What's Theirs? We're all Take What's Theirs. Take What's Theirs for everybody. Orange Whip. Yeah. Orange Whip. Orange Whips. Okay. All right. Battle tactics. Okay. I don't know what happened there. That was really weird. Okay, cool. Anyways. Intimidate the invaders. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are more friendly units wholly outside your territory than there are friendly units within your territory. Okay. Very battle plan dependent, but cool. An easy turn 1, top of 1. Like, leave your starting zone. All right.
Yeah, or late game. Yeah, I mean, it's one, you kind of choose your own adventure and the timing of this. It's one you can hold on to. Particularly for the split halfway, you can hold on to it for later in the game.
Yep. Yeah, it depends exactly. It depends a lot on like the nature of your territory, right? And what that looks like, and there will be some interesting battle plans where that will show up in interesting ways. But okay.
Yep.
That one's fine. Like that one. Good. Mm-hmm. A+. Interesting on timing and how you use it, and neat. It's I suppose hard to fail, but it's okay. It's
right. You're potentially doing some things. Right.
And I still like the incentive of it, which is get out of your home territory, which is nice.
Yes, right. Well, on that point, I was just going to say that you're potentially doing some positioning things you don't want to be doing. Yeah. Or at least on the margins you don't want to do, which is good.
That's why I like it. Yes, I agree. Right. That's what I'm saying, right? It's sort of breaking up your castle and say, hey, you got to go leave your safety bubble, right?
Right. Yeah, there's a number of things this season that are breaking up, that are affecting castles in healthy ways. So that's cool.
I'm for this one.
Yeah.
Tom, you for this one?
Yeah. I think that it generates some interesting play opportunities.
Okay. Reprisal. You complete this battle tactic if an enemy unit that destroyed a friendly general earlier in the battle is destroyed in this turn. I'm gonna give this one a thumbs up too. What I like about this one is it's not an immediate kickback. Like, you don't have to, if your general died last turn, you got to kill it this turn. It can just be like at any point. And it just says a friendly general. So like if somebody kills your war masters or stuff like that, all your bonus jennies can still trip this off and suddenly turn this on for the rest of the fight. Obviously not a turn 1. Turn 1 top of 1 choice.
Sure. Yeah.
Would be impossible. But yeah, I like this one. It's good. I like this is an interesting thing. Go after that unit. You have to, you pick your times right, and cool. Yeah, good.
I felt like we had a scheme that was this back in the day, something like this.
We had something pretty similar. Yeah, we had something pretty similar.
Yeah, That's cool. Go if you're getting desperate, need to go suicide your general. You're not spellcasting savant, your grand strat. It's not, you don't care as much about. You can sacrifice your general and then to open up some avenue for a battle tactic in a desperate situation. That's kind of neat. But yeah, not too bad.
Endless expropriation. That word. No. Nope. Not reading all the text, and it's a no. It's a no for me, dog.
It just simply is, yeah. All that it's saying mostly is pick a enemy wizard
do a
to
thing that
destroy
in many
is
games
bonded.
will be impossible.
Sure. Kill an enemy wizard bonded. Basically, kill an enemy wizard that's bonded to an endless spell.
Yep. Mostly,
that's what it's saying.
Yes, correct. Yes, correct. Just dispelling the endless spell doesn't get you there, which is what's insane to me about this, right?
Right.
Like that was a slam dunk. But no. No. Hard no. I mean, realistically, many people's games, 4 out of 5 games, many people play, especially with how I think this season will go. This won't even be viable. Like this, you will literally have 7 battle tactics because there will be 0 endless spells or incarnates in the enemy list. So it's just like, isn't even a thing. This is so specific and weird, and I hate it. This is an F. This gets a hard F.
Okay. So you're telling me you don't like when battle tactics or secondary objectives are so specific that in some games they won't actually impact the game?
No, I'm saying this one gets an F. Okay. You're trying to trap me on a banners held high. Plenty of people had banners and totems, Tom, especially in the early period. I know what you're like. Did you think that was going to be like clever? I know what you're going for. People had banners.
No, I'm just pointing out the sarcasm and the irony. And the reality is that people will still have endless spells. I know that in general people won't, like many won't, but people definitely still will. There will still be things like mirror. Like it's going to be out there.
Yeah. All right, magical dominance. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if a friendly wizard unsuccessfully. No, that should be successfully.
Oh, there you go. There's no way that's my fault.
No, that was
no way.
No, that's me. That's me. If a friendly wizard successfully cast, I just mistyped it because I was, like reading and typing or whatever, and just my brain said unsuccessfully. Gotcha. Friendly wizard successfully cast 1 or more spells, and none of the spells cast by any units in your army were unbound. Okay. This is a weird one because it says cast 1 spell, then stop.
Sure.
Yeah, I read this and I was like, Teclis pushes his spell out. You don't attempt anymore. Congratulations.
Right. Stop while you're ahead, right? There's no need to push it here. This is a weird one, actually, because this is magical dominance. This is the hardest to achieve for spell dom armies that are also spell spam armies. Because, as you pointed out, and I do think you're at least partially right, that, like, they will get spells, at least around the margins, chewed off, right?
Yeah.
Your chances of unbinding at least 1 spell goes way up, right? But like
Tom,
magical.
Tom, I was partially right. That's gonna feed me for a month here.
Let's give you a little. Right. There you go, baby bird.
Woo!
You get a little. Yeah, I mean,
incredible.
Yes, as people have pointed out, yes, multiple times with that, like, you have a wizard. You're not playing Seraphon and you keep a wizard more than 30 inches away. You cast Mystic Shield in turn 1 and stop casting at the top of 1. Done. Got it.
Yep. Yeah.
Be out of unbind range and cast your spell at the top of 1. Like, this will be a very common turn 1 top of 1 thing from a caster sitting at the back of the board throwing a Mystic Shield on somebody.
I really love this one. I mean, obviously, ridiculous name. It's the exact opposite of dominance.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
So, but yeah, I like you laid everything out that I like about this and what it does to spell doms and so on and so forth. So yeah, and yeah, it's early or potentially it's late. If you can get rid of wizards, and then you have a wizard to cast a spell with primal dice in round 4 or 5 just to get this as a last bit of a battle tactic. But yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's fine. So I'm gonna say. We've got, what is that, 3 so far that feel pretty doable? Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like,
it's possible.
In the world of
Reprisal's tricky.
And doable. Reprisal's tricky, but it's doable. It's doable. Again, because it's generous in its timing. That's why I'm giving it into the doable category.
Sure.
Magical Mayhem. Pick one enemy unit on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that unit is destroyed by damage inflicted by a spell or the abilities of an endless spell. Whew. That is a high bar to cross for a lot of armies. Ironically, this is the magical dominance. Because Tzeentch looks at this and goes like, all right, we can get there, boys. Let's do this.
Right.
Right? But again, the more anti-magic that's in the world, the harder this becomes to know you've got for sure. Right? For a lot of armies, this is a non-starter. Like, what are you banking on? A Merciless Blizzard? No.
No, I know what you're banking on is an Arcane Bolt on a unit with 1 wound. Like, what you're doing is you look across the battlefield and you're, that guy's on. There it is.
Yeah. No, that checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, this one feels like a rarely achieved and a very difficult one, honestly, for a lot of armies. Or a very easily achieved one for a very few armies. That's how I would divide it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't believe that you try to Blizzard somebody. That's just no. Blizzard's gonna draw primal magic dice so fast on the unbind faster than you can say snow. Okay. Hold on. So in this season, when you unbind a spell, instead of saying no, are you saying snow? I say snow to that spell. Okay.
I appreciate when your cheese side comes out. Yeah, like that was really bad. Like Jesus, Tom is struggling here, and you're pulling out that nonsense tonight.
Okay.
All right.
I gotta keep you on point. Bait and trap. You complete this battle tactic if 2 or more friendly units retreated and 2 or more different friendly units made a charge move this turn. Like this one a lot.
Yep.
It's great. It's very doable. It becomes really interesting with people who can hero phase do shenanigans. Like who can hero phase charge or stuff like that. Right. That actually becomes really interesting. So.
Nighthaunt looks at this as yes, please.
Sure, yeah, because they're always wanting to retreating and charge. Now, obviously, the two, that was the two that you can't like bring the same 2 units out and back in, which is what they normally want to do. But it doesn't matter. Yes, retreating and charging is basically in their wheelhouse, right? So yeah, agreed. Hey, it's something for Nighthaunt. We don't get to say that very often.
Yeah, love this one as well. Yeah, it's really interesting working to set this one up, and it's nice. I
also like that it encourages fighting wide, and I generally like things that are anti-Death Star and encourage fighting wide, which this does.
Yeah,
like get fighting in more places is good incentive to have in the game. So I'm gonna count this as a 4th one. That I think is good. So we're 4 for 6 so far. Led into the Maelstrom. You complete this battle tactic if 1 or more friendly heroes and 1 or more friendly battle line units each made a charge move this turn, and at least one of those units is within 3 inches of an enemy unit at the end of this turn. I kind of hate this, but it's fine. I hate tactics that punishing you for winning.
Sure.
What I mean by that is like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I charge my hero and my unit into your unit, and we kill the enemy unit.
Yeah.
And I lose the battle tactic because I killed you too hard, right? And that's a real new player trap that ends up happening. Obviously, experienced players are just going to like charge one of those units into multiple units. You're going to be within 3 inches of multiple units. So that way, like, I completely kill this unit, and then, I'm still within 3 inches of the other thing I didn't want to charge, right? Like, okay, cool.
Right.
Like, it's fine. This is a totally doable tactic. I just hate things that punish you for winning too much. Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, what did DJ Khaled ever do to you? Okay? Like, I don't understand why you're coming after him so hard. Fragom says, Informer by Snow, sing it when you unbind. First of all, that is really hard. Obviously I could like readily start doing Informer off the top of my head. I did grow up in that time period, but that's not an easy one. All right, surround and destroy. Pick 3 different friendly units on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic At the end of your turn, if each of those units is wholly within 6 inches of a different battlefield edge, and 2 or more of those units are wholly outside your territory. Holy crap. 3 different friendly units. Each of those units has to be wholly within 6 inches of a different battlefield edge. So they got it. Right? So 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. Right?
Yep.
Or whatever. You get it. Because you can't have there. And 2 of them have to be outside your territory. Good God. I didn't think you could get more wild than the Map Explorer one we had, right?
Oh, yeah, Map Maker.
Trying to touch all the corners, Map Maker.
Yeah.
But boy, did we do it.
That was popular. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
people-
I might have said something.
So-
Tom, did you hate that one? Okay, go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, but I mean, if you look at this, actually, like, this is first turn accomplishable if you have a teleporter in a number of scenarios.
Sure.
Yeah, it's battle tactic teleport. First
Yeah.
off,
It is battle tactic teleport. It is not battle tactic ambushers. Okay, people who are in reserve.
right, because you gotta be on the battlefield. Yeah.
You got to be on the battlefield. That's right. So people like BOC who are trying to null deploy, like, I mean, like, obviously you could, like, come on all over the board, then the next round pick it, right? That's fine. But you can't do it while they're off board, right? So, like, BOC have to set up for it.
But like even looking at this, geomantic pulse, lines of communication, every step forward, limited. No, maybe not. You'd have to have high mobility, but like a number of these you can get to, like, easily.
They've got the full width deployment.
If you have a full width deployment, you are easily turn 1 for that. That tactic.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. It matters a lot how you set up. Like the nature of the battle plan is crazy impactful to your ability to accomplish this thing. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is also battle tactic teleporter army. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Skaven are loving this one. Surround and destroy, auto, easy every time, 2 points in the bank. But I like this one just fine. So all in all, I think there are 6 interesting ones here that I think are doable. At worst, let's count at 5.5 because reprisal maybe it's a pretty high bar, but I think there's easily 5.5 to 6.
So you're counting surround and destroy in that?
I am counting surround and destroy. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And then
I think it's doable in enough battle plans, and there's enough teleporters and enough people with ambushers who could, like, drop them over in a corner and wait.
Set it up for
and
the next
call
round.
It the next round and so on and so forth. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it might be a soft incentive for more lists to run, like Ether Wing equivalent units, just little units where their job is, which would be interesting to me. Just a little more variety, in list building, maybe to try to get this. So maybe a soft incentive to affect lists. That's kind of cool. But yeah, so not too bad this season of Battle Tactics.
No, this is the funny thing that I talked about. Like, I actually like many of the things this season. The 3 different grand strats that are good, I actually like them. And the way that they function, I actually kind of like what they're doing. I wish we had 6 out of 6, but 3 out of 6 is better than previous seasons. And I like how different they all are. I like 6 out of 8 of these battle tactics quite a lot.
Yeah.
Magical Mayhem and Endless Expropriation are the only 2 I don't like. And that's because they lean too much into the current wackadoo season. Right. So, like, this is you asked again to answer your question a third time. What would I like to see? This is the kind of stuff I want to see. Just like, hey, really cool, interesting battle tactics that encourage different play, that break up castles and make you want to go wide and fight on more fronts and, get yourself around the battlefield more. Like, to me, that's good stuff. Like, that's changing the play experience moment to moment. Right. Like, I don't need entire bolt-on systems that are like, let's throw 50 more magic dice at you in pages of rules text, and what will undoubtedly be like 2 pages of FAQs, right? All right, battle plans. We're there, everybody. We did it. We got there. Okay. This will actually be pretty fast because a lot of these will just be like going through the basic thing and then moving through.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, battle plans. I love this piece of art. It has nothing to do with battle plans. I just thought it was a neat piece of art. Okay. Geomantic Pulse. All right. So it's the 4 objectives across the center of the board. Start a second battle round. The player who goes second chooses either A or B to be the pulse, and then for the rest of the game, it's going to travel in the opposite direction. Up, 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 up. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Or sorry, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. That's what happens. That's a travel this direction or a travel this direction. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And objectives can't be moved. Standard scoring stuff. If you control or pseudo standard scoring, I should say, because it's like control 1 objective as a VP, control the pulse is 2 VP. Each objective adjacent to the pulse is 1 VP. Right. So it kind of works out the same. We sort of backed into almost the standard scoring. Depending, there will be interesting rounds like in 3 and 4. You get this extra ghost point that can happen.
Yeah.
But being able to make this choice as the player taking the second in turn 2 is actually quite powerful. Based on like where your army is and where you think your strength sits, right? Okay.
Yeah, because you're looking at up to 7 points in those mid turns. Those 2 mid turns.
Yeah, that's right.
What would that be?
That's right. Yes, in 3 and 4.
3 and 4, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. Like in turn 1, you only have 1 VP
3
available.
Well, battle tactic.
I'm counting from objectives.
Sure.
Right. In turn 2, you have 4 from objectives. In turn 3 and 4, you have 5, and then in turn 5, you go back to 4. Right? So it goes 1, 4, 5, 5, 4 is your actual objective points. Okay.
Sounds right, yeah.
Cool. Good. And then obviously battle tactics stack on top of that as normal. Geometric Pulse. Yeah, I don't hate this one. Easy deployment. Love the deployment map. This is one of my favorite. Just a simple deployment map. It's a classic. Nice horizontal spread. Get you moved out across the board. Good scoring. Going second turn 2 is quite powerful. Turns 3 and 4, I really think you will end up scrumming in the middle, trying to get at those bonus points you mentioned.
Right.
Just a slight downside. But I'd rather have the scrum in the middle on turn 3 and 4 than 1 and 2.
Sure.
Honest answer. I gave this one a 7 out of 10. Nothing incredible. Very ready for play. Tournament ready. Yeah. Tom, what's your vote? You in the same place?
Yeah, it's a great, just run-of-the-mill vanilla scenario.
Yeah.
Other than the kind of unusual scoring situation with the 4 objectives, which is a nice mix, right?
Yep.
I appreciate it. Although I will say it goes back to what we were talking about the turn 2 or the second or like the bottom of the turn.
Going second continues to get stronger. Touch the pin.
Yeah.
Touch the pin. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Nexus Collapse. So this uses the box-to-box, corner-to-corner deployment, which will make things like surround and destroy potentially harder, like because here you're only adjacent to 2 when you begin, and so on and so forth. So that's just always something we should think about, right?
Yep.
But other than that, standard 9-inch away. Again, I like this deployment. Instability. At the start of each battle round after the first, after determining which player will take the first turn, the player with the fewest victory points can choose to collapse up to 2 objectives. If both players are tied on victory points, the players roll off and the winner can choose to collapse 1 objective. Roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches of any collapsed objectives. On a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Once all rolls have been made for those units, remove all collapsed objectives from the battlefield. Okie dokie. So 6 objectives to start, right? And then from turn 2 on, the person with the lowest VP can collapse 2, or you roll off and you collapse 1, right? So you actually can get to 0 objectives in this, though it would not probably make sense to do so. But it is possible, which is interesting. Okay. Upside. Easy deployment. Love this deployment map. I love a square-to-square. 6 objectives to begin and a good spread. I like the positioning on them is really nice across the board. Good scoring. The catch-up mechanic is really interesting since it's the lower victory points, not just going second in the round.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually really like that as a catch-up mechanic. My downside is I really hate the random rule for collapsing objectives. I really, really hate it. It sounds minimal at first, but think about it this way. The games that are the tightest, that you're playing like that you're like pacing the opponent, right? Yeah? Where you're tied on victory points.
Yeah.
Those are generally your most intense, equally matched games, right? Okay, in those games, we've now introduced a very swingy element. Because now you just roll off and just randomly one person is going to get to go up on scoring because they'll collapse the objective they want.
Reminds me of an Ashcon game where it came down to a Scorched Earth die roll on a D3. If
Right.
I rolled a 3 up, I won. If I didn't, we tied. Yeah, it's like, okay, what? I mean, it's weird.
But, and the difference there that I think is that I'm really trying to drill in on, right, is ironically, they probably wrote that text thinking like, well, we got to have some way to decide, and that's the easy way to decide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I would have just preferred, if you're tied on victory points, nobody collapses an objective. That would have been a far better way to write it. Because why did we just decide if you're playing a really good, evenly matched game where you're both just like, you know, really do it, like just punch and trade and punch for punch, right? Well, in that case, let's just make it more random and swingy. Like,
Sure.
No, wrong choice. They didn't think that through, right? And that it's that kind of thing that really bothers me because it didn't need to be there. Right? They were doing like the catch-up mechanic is really good. The lower victory points is really good design. The map is well designed. Like everything here was banging for me. And then I read that and I was like, ugh. Right?
Yeah, I agree. So the only asterisk I would add to the nice catch mechanic is when I read this initially, what came to my mind is go second and be ideally 1 point behind, like 5-4.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like that's a natural pull that this has as an orientation, if you can, which then creates an interesting question in the mind of the player who's going first and what are they doing. And, you know, so it's kind of interesting, but I do worry. I have to play this a number of times to get a feel for it, but I do worry that maybe this will have a sizable impact, this mechanic that can make for swingy games. I hope not. Like, my feeling is it's probably good, but I don't know until I play it.
It's an interesting thing. I hadn't even thought that part through, but yeah, you're right. Like, intentionally not take 3 objectives, you know, so you're just like that in the battle tactic. I'll score 4. Okay, let's go into turn 2. Cool, I get to collapse your 2 objectives, and then, you know, set up my own position. Yeah. By the way, the extra mortal wounds thing is just silly and shouldn't be there. Like, just stop.
Sure.
Just stop writing the text. Somebody should have just smacked their hand. Like, just stop. That text did not need to be there. It's irrelevant extra text. We don't need to be doing this splash mortal wound thing. I hate all that. I hate this silly splash mortal wound thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't need to exist. Stop it.
But yeah, it's kind of a interesting kind of, you know, game theoretic context that this one can create and the different potential scenarios to consider. So yeah, that's.
But overall, I still
point.
gave this one a 7 out of 10 because I still think it's good. And in most instances, you know, you'll have it'll be fun. Though I think it will spawn some real feel bad moments here and there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Tom, anything else? Did I miss anything there from your perspective?
No, I think that hits it all.
Okay. All right. Cool. Lines of communication. Again, nice. Simple deployment. Good. Dig it. Fantastic. Keep it up. Disruption. At the start of each battle round, after determining which player will take the first turn, the player taking the second turn can pick a phase to disrupt, where they get total eclipse. During that battle round, each time a model in their opponent's army issues a command trait in that phase, their opponent must roll a die. On a 3-up, an additional command point must be spent in order to issue. They can choose whether or not to. If they don't, the command fails, and the command point is lost, and the command point counts as being issued. Okay? So, what does this mean? This means that the person going second, right, is just going to pick the combat phase. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
So that your all-out attack and all-out defense both get harder. I mean, depending. Like, the generic choice is just the combat phase, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then when you try to do that stuff, they're going to roll a die, and on a 3-up, suddenly you're total eclipsed.
Yep.
Okay, that's what it is. Other than that, score normal. Yes, Keith Rogers said, but Vince, you can play this battle plan and cast Total Eclipse. Wonderful. Easy deployment, good scoring. The disruption mechanic will be very painful to some armies and completely irrelevant to others. Most of the time, it will just default to the combat phase. I also hate the timing of it. I hate that you, like, make the choice here and then need to remember to make the rolls later on. Like,
Sure.
the number of times where we're going to hear, I issue all at attack. Okay, cool. I issue all at defense, blah, blah, blah. And life goes on. They're like, oh, crap. You were supposed to roll a 3-up to see if you should have spent an extra command point.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to happen a lot.
Did you have any armies in mind when you say you think this will be very painful for some armies?
Sure, people who want to spend CPs but don't have any extra CP mechanics to gain them, right? Like,
yeah.
But whereas, like, your Pretender Slanesh is just like, who cares? I cannot be disrupted. I get, 20 command points a turn. Suck it. Like, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking of largely. Command point constrained armies who still care about it. I gave this one a 5 out of 10. Like, it's fine. 3, I didn't mention it, but 3 objectives is always somewhat questionable. We're, like, definitely on a borderline there. So, but, like, this one's I'm being generous with the 5 out of 10 on this one in my mind.
What do you think about this one, Tom?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the 3 objective scenarios in general are problematic for playstyle, and they de-incentivize mobility, especially when they're lined up in the middle like this.
Yeah, sure. As opposed to like the other one we had last season where they were like this, and then one in the middle.
Yes, that's exactly right. Like, I feel more comfortable with those. I think that this is going to generate some just not super enjoyable games.
Yeah, I could be moved to marking this one a 4 out of 10. I'll say that right away. Like, because of that reason, and I didn't really, like that. I'm so iffy on the 3 objectives lined up on the center line. For all the reasons you just said, Tom. Yep.
Yeah.
As someone else said, Amusing Park said, by the way, good lord, you're gonna hit KO in the movement phase because they want to do all their command ability movement phase stuff, and like they're gonna get whacked by this, and that's not gonna be a fun time for them. So.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see how much this is played. I mean, like, we've had missions like this in the past that were relatively popular with various versions of this, not with the disruption rule, but I just mean the 3 objectives. I mean,
sure.
Like shifting objectives, the First Blood had a really nice layout diagonally and good deployment territories. But yeah, because like it's very simple. This mission, it's the simplest, or one of the simplest of all of these. But so
except for the thing that everybody's going to forget all the time, which is also crazy.
Sure. Yes. Right, exactly.
Somehow both of those will be true.
Yeah, I don't know honestly, I don't know, guys, how I feel about this one. Like, I could see it not being it's probably going to be too impactful and too impede, elicit too many negative experiences because of the nature of this rule. But that's the point of the rule. I don't know. It's weird.
Yep, I agree. This is a weird one. I could be moved to a 4 out of 10. I won't be surprised if we don't see this a lot. I really don't think people are going to find this one fun.
It reminds me of against some armies, it's just utterly crippling, right?
Sure.
It reminds me of a number of scenarios we've had in the past where we have similar situations, whether it would be like places of power that was like wizard based, right? Yeah. Or I think about something like we're
gonna get to a Wizards of Power or to a Places of Power when it's coming.
Understandable. Or everybody no reserves, everybody has to be deployed. Like it inordinately hits. To me, from a design standpoint for scenarios, it touches a third rail where it skews the actual experience for some armies when it's not actually affecting some armies at all.
Yeah. And what's funny is there are versions of the 2 scenarios you just mentioned we haven't gotten to yet.
I know.
We'll get there. So this one echoes those, but why echo when we can just basically have the new versions of both of those, Tom?
I'm aware.
Why just pay homage? All right. So now this one would honestly be a pass for me. All right. Let's keep going. Every step is forward. Okay, sure. This deployment plus 9 inches. Like, boy, do you have that little tendril out there. The risk it for the biscuit tendril. But I hate these kind of maps, but whatever. This isn't the worst, but it's still not great. Give no ground. If a unit makes a charge move until the end of that turn, add 1 to the number of models that each model in that unit counts as for the purpose of contesting objectives. If a unit retreats until the end of that turn, models in that unit cannot contest objectives. Hold 1, hold 2, hold 3 more. Okay. Upside. Deployment tendrils allow for some really interesting risk-reward deployments. I love the deployment tendrils. I really do. Especially for redeploy armies, by the way. People who can, like, after setup do redeploys. Like, what a great... Yeah, they love a map like this, right?
Yeah. Bastion and Soulblight. And, yeah.
Yep. Night Haunt. Yep.
Night Haunt.
Nice objective spread. Good. Like, I like the spread on this a lot. It's quite wide. You're really going to be fighting across a lot of the board. Scoring solid. The downsides, annoying actual setup to determine starting areas. Look, I'm going to mention it every time. It's not like a huge thing in my overall rating, but like it's there and I don't like it. But at the same time, I'm willing to put up with it because I do like the little tendrils. So, okay. And then retreat isn't shut off, but it is a big penalty and a pretty common tactic. It's maybe not bad, but it's interesting. I don't know, like Sons of Bahamut, Night Haunt, like armies that want to go retreat away to do things that have that as part of their theory of the case. That really sucks for you.
Or let me get this right. Just use their allegiance mechanics.
Sure. Like, because retreating to objectives is pretty popular, pretty common. And suddenly, oh yes, I do have the wrong tactic on this side. You told me that and I didn't change it.
Yeah.
I forgot to make your fix. Every step is forward. There you go. Fixed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, I mean, again, like, to me, this just seems egregious.
Both of you.
This seems just egregious against things like Night Haunt, right?
Sure.
Where like what it says is that either you get your allegiance abilities, or you get to claim objectives, but you don't get to do both.
Yeah.
That seems problematic.
Sure.
Yeah. If it weren't for, I love this one, but the Night Haunt issue is a real problem. That's very unfortunate. I mean, I really like the idea of preventing you from doing something you would normally do in the game. It's such a common tactic to just retreat and still score. I like that concept as an orientation of a mission. I love the map. I love the objective placement. I love everything about this. But the Night Haunt asterisk is a little tough. Maybe a couple of, yeah.
There's a couple armies that are going to get hit. When I say a couple, I mean really a couple. That are going to get hit pretty hard by this. But otherwise, I give this. I did rate this one a 7 out of 10. I mean, if you're a Night Haunt player, you're probably rating this lower. If you're a Sons of Bahamut player, you're probably rating this lower, right? If you're a Doc, what's the Doc?
Kelnar.
Yeah. Where you have the retreat and stuff every round. Yeah, that's probably bad. Now, that being said, okay, like, I think it's still a perfectly acceptable for a tourney. Like, I think you'll see it. That's what I'll say. I think the fundamentals of the map are good, and I think if you're a Night Haunt player or one of those armies, you just need to, like, be aware that this is a thing and figure out how you're going to play around that, right? Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Warable. Kind of wish they'd bring back shifting objectives, focal points, or similar. Makes the game fair, but just has enough of a spin to be interesting. Boy, do I have a project for you, buddy. Just wait.
All right. Limited resources. Okay. So this is a very interesting map as far as the objectives go. Like, what a wild map, right? Wholly within your territory, 9 inches away, standard. Siphon meltwater. When a player gains control of an objective, they start to siphon meltwater from it. After scoring victory points, if the player whose turn it is controls an objective that they controlled at the end of their previous turn, They have siphoned all the meltwater from that objective. For the rest of the battle, that player cannot control that objective. And then the designer's note is to say, hey, you can still contest the objectives. In other words, preventing your opponent from doing it. So the maximum amount of time you can score off of any one objective is 2 rounds.
Unless it's interrupted by your opponent.
Unless it's interrupted, in which case it's 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Because then either you have to go 1, interrupt, 3, 4, done, right? Because you did 2 rounds in a row. Or 1, interrupt, 3, interrupt, 5. So you can either do 2 or 3 with interruption, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And obviously, if you move away from it and there's no enemy units, you still control it.
You still control it. That's right. You can't just walk away. Yeah. You'll still control it. You'll still siphon the meltwater off of it. You'll still then burn it out for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Upsides, simple deployment, nice objective spread, good scoring. Upside, meltwater. Downside, meltwater. Turning readiness, 7 out of 10. Like, the meltwater thing, I was so torn on this one, but I still went 7 out of 10. And let me tell you why. Because I think the meltwater thing of being able to control the objective only 2 rounds is actually really interesting with 6 objectives and how it encourages movement around the board and all of that kind of stuff. I really like it. Okay? I love the idea that it's like pushing you around the board to keep seeking out new objectives that you can control and take and stuff like that. That is fantastic, conceptually. Okay? Right? But the downside is the meltwater and remembering it. Like, people are going to forget, like, have to sit there and be like, wait, did I control this one again? Like, especially if they get interrupted.
Get out your tokens.
Get out your tokens. Yeah, exactly. When you stack 2, put a little penny on top of the objective when you've done it once. When you add the second penny, that one's done for you, right? You can't touch any objective with 2 pennies on it or something. You know, like a secondary game aid is going to be extremely valuable here. So it's both an upside and a downside, but I still think this one's cool. I just think it's cool.
I think it's probably my favorite of this pack.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I played it Tuesday. When did I play it? No, last week. And fascinating. Absolutely fascinating how it plays, at least in that first experience. Yeah. It's a different than your average game and how you're thinking about it and how you're doing things. And like you said, you're definitely playing around the board, real consideration of, again, like these game theoretic situations that are coming up in the decision making between the 2 players. Really enjoyed it.
Nice. Tom?
Yeah, what I would say is that it is going to create very unique play experiences and incentivize very unusual moves in the game.
Yes.
Where people are wanting to like jump across or do very non-linear approaches to play. Or you might, that's one hand. The other hand is you're going to see a lot of sweeping maneuvers where people start on one side and then as a wave kind of rotate around.
Yeah. Not getting on too many objectives early, right? Potentially. Sure. Not starting the clock too early on too many objectives.
Yeah. So like, look, the downside of this one's obvious. The bookkeeping, the memory stuff, all of that, right? But to me, I actually think this one's worth it. That's why I still came down with a good score. Because the different play style it encouraged, I think, is interesting enough that it's worth a little bit of like the mental cost here. That's my general take. Okay, cool. Oops, sorry. Spring the trap. So 3 objectives, but this time spread quite wide, right? So they're not on the middle line. There's an extra distance here. The shorter box deployment, 9 inches away. So this is like the small deployment zone, right?
Yeah.
Which obviously has like some concerns around how big your army is, but for the most part, I don't mind it. During deployment, after both players have set up their units, starting with the attacker. I got to figure out who the attacker is again. I never ever think about that, but sure. Each player can remove D3 units from the battlefield, roll once for both players, and place those units in reserve. Starting from the second battle round, at the end of your movement phase, you can set up those units you placed in reserve, wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield edge and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. There is a massive problem with this battle plan that needs to be FAQ'd immediately. Before I flip the slide, Tyler, what's the problem with this battle plan?
Yeah, right now, Vince, you've got that stupid lizard named Croak, or that frog named Croak. I'm just going to pick him up, buddy. I'm going to pick him up because this is what the rules tell me that I can do. And potentially 2 other units, and yeah, you're just not going to get to play with him for a while.
Correct. As it's written right now, I can pick up your units, and then I get to put your units onto the battlefield.
Yep.
Obviously, that will be FAQ to be corrected. Like, there's no world where they're letting that fly. Okay,
right.
Like 100%. I mean, it's clearly meant to be your units you're putting into reserve.
Sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I really like this one, assuming that gets fixed. Really like this one.
Yes. So agreed. Upside, simple deployment, nice objective spread, good flooring, good scoring. Outflank, if I could only remove and set up my units. Downside, outflank, if I can remove and set up enemy units. It's a 2 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, depending on how quickly outflank gets FAQ'd. I agree. I think this is a really good one.
Yeah. Reminds me a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
And I like how it's both spread out from an objective standpoint. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's only 3 objectives. But they're much more spread out, right? And you're starting not near any of them. Right? Which I also like. I like when you don't actually start near any of the objectives. Like, there's no home objective. You got to go out there and get the gold. I actually really like that design.
Yep.
Yeah. Reminds me a little bit of meeting engagements, with how meeting engagements worked with units coming in from different board edges and
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Like, it's cool that it actually gives a little bit of interesting, sort of ambush potential to some units. Like, this works well with the surround the enemy or whatever battle tactic, right? So, like, a lot of good stuff there.
Scarbrand popping out 3d6 charge.
Sure.
From this thing.
Sure. Yeah. Fun stuff, right? Yeah, it's cool. I really like Spring the Trap. I agree. I think this is one of the strong ones in there. Again, assuming Outline gets very quickly FAQ'd, which I assume it will because they're not insane.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Eric Doty says, I cast Banishment on Croak. Yeah, exactly. We just had D3 units of free Banishment at the start of the game.
Oh, Eric, man, that's a callback. Banishment. Yes. Wow.
That was the last time they let you touch the opponent's models, and we had to get rid of that real fast.
Yep.
So, yeah, clearly, history tells us that's going away. Fountains of Frost. So, again, 6 objectives with the nice 3 and 3 sort of at the home. Geysers of Primal Magic. Andes count as 10 models for the purposes of contesting objectives. At the start of each battle shock phase, roll a dice for each objective that is contested by 3 or more units. On a 4-up, each unit contesting that objective suffers D3 mortal wounds. Roll separately for each unit. And then hold 1, hold 2, hold more. Okay? Alright. So, your Andes count as a lot more. They all get to be Stonehorns. But if you happen to be overholding an objective, like if you have too many people on it, you risk some kickback. Okay. Cool. Upside. Deployment. Good. Objective spread. Good. Scoring. Good. Love a 3 and 3, 6 objective. You got to push into theirs to hold that one more. Yes, yes, yes. Nice, decent DMZ in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Downside, the stupid splash mortal wounds thing. Why does that exist? It's so extra. It just doesn't need to be there.
I kind of like it here. I mean, I agree with you in general. I always agree in general with this because it's extra stuff. But I do I love the disincentive to castle or to have multiple units.
Camp. Yeah, the problem is this scenario already did a good job of that by having a 3 and 3 spread.
Yeah, that's true.
By having 6 objectives with that spread, you were already heavily incentivized not to overcamp. So
Yeah.
like we did the work. Then we just kept writing rules.
That's yeah. I mean, that's kind of true. Like I'm thinking of not just power pairs, but your quad units where you've got uh, like Lord Castellan, Vandus, Relictor, and 10 Vindictors, and they're all hanging out because they all go together in a spot.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so this disincentivizes that. I love that. And
Sure.
there's a number of
Except
armies
you're
that
just gonna
have.
set like 2 of those guys right outside the zone and 2 of those guys in the zone.
I guess what's the? Oh, just contesting range.
Yeah, it's contesting.
That's
so, yeah,
fair.
I mean, like,
Yeah, that's fair. You
Like-
could just do that. Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
extra fiddle bookkeeping
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
for like
you're
no
right.
real reason.
Right.
Now, that being said, this is still a 7 out of 10. It's a great. It's a great. I'm not gonna hold the one silly rule that just didn't need to be there, and anybody with like half a brain in their head will never trip over, like ever.
Mm.
Okay, because it's still a nice scenario. Like it sucks that like okay, Andes get to be worth a lot. Fine, that's cool. Like okay, but it's 10. It's not
That's
completely
fine.
out of control.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't-
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
That's too
even if you're
bad.
playing without Andes, it's not like you can't take that thing away from them
Right. Right.
because
Yeah.
they it's fine. Tom,
Yep.
Nailed
That's
it.
where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now. I mean,
It's all right.
it's
all right.
fine. Like, it's fine. Like, I think I think it is perfectly acceptable. It's
Yeah.
around the number of objectives that you want. I hate that it ties to unit composition, but it's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
The actual like big downside to me here is the Andes counting as 10 because there's armies that just won't have them at all. Like there's armies that can't have them
Right.
at all, and so like that kind of stuff is always negative to me. Right? I don't love it, but at least it's not extra victory points. It is just like counting as more, which can still be fought against. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not extra scoring, which I
Yeah.
appreciate.
Spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And yes, as pointed out by Kuhal, it is total units. So like if they have 2 when you run in with your 3rd, you turn it on, right? The splash zone. You turn on the splash zone.
Yep.
But like realistically, if they have 2 units and you're running in with your unit, you're hoping that those units, at least one of those units, doesn't exist anymore after you're done with your charge, as often happens in AOS. So you're back to 2 units again, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. The ice fields. Create a circle around the middle and let's go fight in it. Okay. Annoying lengthwise deployment. Ice encrusted domain. Each time a unit runs, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. When you make a charge roll for each dice that shows a 1 before modifiers are applied, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Let's cut to the chase. I hate this scenario. It's a skip. The scoring is fine. I hate running mortal wounds. Lots of support heroes will just kill themselves running around the board. That's terrible. Like, God forbid you have a run and charge army. Your support heroes all just kill themselves, moving around trying to keep up with the units that are all actually fighting. Ditto for the charging. Oops, you accidentally killed your support hero because they charged in. Like, they've been doing a lot of work to make support melee foot heroes actually want to go get in fights and fight with their friends. With the whole, like chain activation. Well, oops, you accidentally killed that guy. How fun. He was just trying to go fight and he killed himself. What a great time that is. Like, rolling Snake Eyes doesn't already suck enough on charging, right?
Sure.
Now you can just get kicked when you're down, right? Like, fail and take 2d3 mortal wounds. Wow. Great. Okay. The circle around the middle just ends up to being where units are all going to be up in each other's business because of the distance there. It's lengthwise deployment, which sucks at tournaments. I'm sorry, I won't let this go. I don't care. Lots of tournaments run with tables butting up against each other. I hate walking all the way down the stupid table row and all the way to the other side. Every time I just need to reach a unit. It's annoying. Or I have to be like, hey, my opponent, can you please move my model exactly in the way that I would want it to be moved perfectly? What a great time. 3 out of 10, skip it.
I like it.
I'm excited.
How after Herner's tables and all the time you saw that this rule sucked, do you want to play in this?
Because it introduces some interesting, weird decision points. Now, what I want to affirm is that it does all the things that I don't like that the anti-Night Haunt table is doing.
Yeah, exactly. All your dumb Night Haunt heroes that want to retreat and charge are all dead.
Agreed. But here's the deal. If we're going to play with that other scenario, this needs to be in there too. Like, we need to properly penalize everybody.
How about we just don't use either?
Because this really hurts like armies that like the whole army to get stuck in, right? Like forces that you want everybody to get stuck in because you're going to be throwing more charge dice. So what I would say is this. I think that this is part of a package of scenarios in this packet that, to me, if you're going to run one, you need to run all of them.
Yeah, I would just skip both of them. I really hate this.
And if that's what I'll say is this. I agree with you. I don't like the staggered deployment or like the lengthwise deployment. I think it's terrible for events.
Agreed.
But I like this like six objective staggered formation. Like, it's really interesting to me from a spacing standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, we could have run it horizontally with the same deployment and I would have been fine, but okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe it is different because here you have 3 solid objectives that you're able to fortify and bunker. With the other one, you have 2 that you have to move up on 2 more. That is a very different like deployment challenge.
I agree, and I like the second scenario. You charted out better.
Yeah, and I understand that. All that to say, I don't hate ice fields, even though like I hate it for what it is forcing. At the same time, I think that it can be valuable.
Yeah, what a wild take. I don't think shooting castle armies needed a scenario that they were so excited to show up in.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. Like, this is part of a constellation of scenarios that everybody gets penalized. Like in this world of like deployment and keywords and all that stuff. And if everybody has a shitty scenario, right, then I feel less bad about like having if you're Night Haunt, you lose the scenario.
Sure, that's fair. Tyler, anything we missed?
I'm just excited. Tom's talking a lot, so
we woke him up.
I'm really enjoying. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the things that are going to keep penalizing the other people then. All right, power flux. Okay. So you got 4 objectives, AA, BB. Cool. And standard horizontal deployment with 9 inches. Aether Surges. In this battle, players can only score victory points for objectives they control if the objective has been activated. At the start of each battle round, after determining which player will take the first turn, the player taking the second turn. I'm touching the pin. Okay. We'll choose which pair of objectives, either A or B, are active for that battle round. Okay. You control at least one objective, you get a VP. You control both activated objectives, you get a VP. Each activated objective you control that is contested by a friendly Antidorian locus that has no enemy Andes near them, it's a VP. Any enemy wizard units destroyed that battle round, it's a VP. Any wizards. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay scoring. Interesting scoring to me. Simple deployment. Large benefit for going second. That could be both an upside and a downside. I don't know. Potential for some very high scores or inability to score based on wizards in each army, right? Like it's any enemy wizards, not one per, but if I can space that out over the course of my turns and like turn 1, I kill one of your wizards. Turn 2, I kill one of your wizards. Turn 3, I kill one of your wizards. Right?
Sure.
If I'm piecing out my meal, yeah, then I can run up a heck of a score depending on the sort of the wizards that you have. Right? to me, this is actually quite a massive anti. Anytime you just give direct points for killing a thing, it becomes a strong anti that thing.
Yeah. The issue that I have with this though is the scoring before it. Each activated objective you control contested by friendly Andy, and that's no enemy Andy contesting at 1 BP. Each activated objective, right?
Sure. So
There's not. They did not specify the any there. So there's inequity right there, potentially in some of these matchups where, yeah, if you're not able to get some wizards off the board quickly enough, you can really get down in scoring potentially in some games I could see. So I don't know. Personally, I that's my main problem with this one. That should be any in my mind, so that you cap it at 1 period. And that's interesting.
I'm putting that in both cases. The upside and the downside now say large benefit for going second. This one I gave a 6 out of 10. I could be argued to a 5. Honestly, it's like it's swingy. Boy, that incentive for going second is really big. Like I am tough on that one. That is, it's hard to say. I don't know how impactful it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, it just seems like you want to build in such a way that you can threaten
AA.
Yeah.
Or sorry, BB. I apologize.
BB, but you don't get
horizontally
to choose BB. So if you go second, you'll get to choose which one you want. But if they have multiple wizards, Andy wizards, they can jump in on those and score a bunch of bonus points. So it's going to be a real interesting like intersection between their composition. Like the way that you beat 1-drops here is you have 2 wizards that can get on both points.
Yeah. And then they give you first turn and you run up and like boom, you've just like
you run up the scoreboard.
Yeah. By selecting, they pick B. If they pick BB, they know they give you the chance to run up the score, which then naturally makes them have to pick AA. Right. Which then lets you get the free point but not take their home point and limits it. So like there's a lot of interesting if this, then this.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I still went 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Like I need to play this one to feel it a couple of times.
Eric, as an aside, he asked about what about killing Luminath wizard units? Those units don't have the wizard keyword.
Yeah, correct. They do not have the wizard keyword. Yes.
So they won't count for this.
It's about the actual wizards.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. The Frigid Zephyr. Yeah. All right. One of my favorite map setups right here. I love this map setup, which is the deployment goes like this, but the objectives go like this. Love it. Love the X. X marks the spot of fun. Ferocious Squall. At the start of the battle, the battlefield is affected by a squall. Until the squall dissipates, units more than 12 inches apart are not visible to each other. In addition, until the squall dissipates, models cannot fly. At the start of each battle round, because it's well known that ghosts highly affected by the weather. At the start of each battle round after the first, after determining which player will take the first turn, if the squall has not dissipated, the player taking the second turn rolls a die and adds the number of the current battle round to the score. On a 7 plus the squall dissipates. I don't know why the player going second gets to roll the die. I'm not touching the pin on this one because it literally doesn't matter. It's just they get to roll the die. Because it's not a may, it's a must. Like they must roll a die. So okay.
Subsystems upon subsystems.
Right. Like just somebody rolls a stupid dice. Great. Okay. Who cares? Yeah. Good scoring, good deployment, good objective layout. No shooting over 12, no spellcasting over 12, no flying. If the last one was a huge penalty to melee armies, this one is a huge penalty to shooting and spellcasting armies, right? While highly benefiting melee armies are people who want to like use most of their spells for buffing, right? Terrain density matters a lot.
Yep.
Because losing the flight. If you're playing with a heavy terrain density and big pieces of terrain, all of a sudden everybody's army not flying means the game becomes like a slog real fast. Right? And then I thought we stopped shutting off army mechanics. I thought we stopped doing this. 3 out of 10. Stop shutting off army mechanics. I rated the other one a 3 out of 10. Tom, I'm consistent.
No, you are. And I appreciate that. But again, if you're going to do any one of these objectives TOs, I think you need to do all of them.
Do you feel meaningfully different if it's 18 inches instead of 12?
I mean, it's a huge change. But like it's an absolutely titanic change if it's 18 instead of 12. Then I don't think it's doing anything. We just shouldn't do this. Night fighting was never fun in 40K. Like, it's just not fun. Stop it.
Yeah, yeah. At that point, you're just affecting some shooting, but mostly, you're not doing anything to magic. Yeah. Like Tzeentch's kill box is still in effect, etc., etc.
I mean, they have their kill box gets slightly shortened, but it's not hugely. Yes.
Sure.
Tzeentch's normal kill box is 16 to 18 inches, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Like mid range.
Yeah.
By the way, Kual said it as well. If you take ice fields, you take this one, Tom. That was the point you were making. I tend to agree. Like, I think these are a pair. If we're going to take the one that screws the melee armies, we got to take the one that screws the shooting armies. Like, these have to. If you're going to take one, you've got to put both bad battle plans in your pack together. So everybody can just have a. So everybody can have a bad time at least one round. Yay. Okay.
Yep. It's a problem.
Yeah. So
yep.
Like,
and by the way, those need to be in rounds like 2, 3, and 4 for the TOs that are watching. Those are not round 1. Those are not round 5 matches.
Pack them in. All right. No reward without risk. Opposite corner to corner with a 5 objective spread and a cross. This one needs an FAQ as well, I assume.
Yeah.
Because right now the deployment just says wholly within your territory. There's no more than 9 inches away. So, like, there is no current minimum. You can just set up, I guess, in combat. Right? So, like,
yep.
You can just, like, be on the corner, reluctantly crouched at the starting line. You just be right up there, baby. So I assume that'll be FAQ'd because we shouldn't have scenarios where you can set up in combat. That's probably weird. So sure. And then feedback overload. When a wizard is slain before removing that model from play, roll a die. On a 4-up, the wizard explodes as their magical energies are released uncontrollably. Each unit within a number of inches equal to the wounds characteristic of that wizard suffers D3 mortal wounds. Roll separately for each unit. 7 out of 10. Scoring, deployment. Again, I'm assuming the FAQ. I'm just going to, that's what I'm saying this for. The 7 out of 10 is assuming the FAQ. So, the downside is starting with a few inches enemy. So this one does do some weird mortal wounds thing, but I'm totally willing for it here because it has a really easy trigger to remember, which is the wizard died and they explode. Honestly, this one might be an 8 out of 10 for me. In fact, it's an 8 out of 10. I'm just going to assume the FAQ, and I'm going up to 8 out of 10.
As soon as it said wizards explode, I knew Vince was in on that.
This is fantastic. Like, what a fun time. Like, cool, man. Like, now we're pod racing. Okay? Like, this is where we should be. Units exploding and killing other units is really fun to me. I love it.
I believe that.
Tom, what do you think?
Side note, I love that it's a number of inches equal to the wounds characteristic of the wizard. So if you kill some, like, mounted 14 wound wizard, it's just like this nuke goes off.
Potentially chain reaction.
Yeah, it's great.
Archeon wipes half the board.
Yeah, just like yeah. This is great.
It's fine. It's fine. Like, I like the deployment situation. That's interesting to me.
If they do let you set up in combat, you mean, or period?
No, just like, even if it's 9 inches off. Like, sure. I like this type of, like, cross deployment diagonal.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Again, this is another one where, like, having a wizard is a problem because if you get alpha, you could set off nukes in your army.
Yeah, just additional wizard cascade. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real thing. And I don't think that I don't think that people will have really thought through the consequence of this until they play it a couple times.
especially if you have a lot of splash mortal wounds where like multiple wizards are getting weakened simultaneously. Like, man, Seraphon are excited about this with the Slann, just like secondary explosions.
So yeah, the first thought I had with this one is maybe a good or a decent game one, like a game one fun mission.
Sure.
Round one, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
That's often a slot for something a little weird and wacky but fun. Kick off a tournament, and then you do the more stable and serious battle plans afterwards. The objective placement. I mean, this was focal points, not the territory layout, but this was this 5 objectives. This was focal points at one point. And it was a solid mission. I think it was slightly. No, I take that back. Focal points was slightly different, but kind of a similar kind of box in the middle. But of course, you can play 6 inches contesting objectives on the west, north, all of those. You can actually be fairly spread out to where, you can minimize some of that potential blowback, potential nuke going off. So I think you might ended up playing more of the board than you're thinking, than one might be thinking. So yeah, I generally like this one, even though it could get really crazy.
Yeah.
So all I'm gonna say is this, man, this is making they have a one constellation of just terrible objectives. Or like terrible scenarios that will create a truly memorable and probably not in a good way event. For the TO that just chains all of these super hard counter scenarios together.
Like start with this, then we go to the ice fields, then we go to the and so on. Yeah, no way but forward. Just like the Iron Man tournament you can build here, right? Yeah, absolutely. Game 1, my wizards exploded. Then people died for running and charging. Then I couldn't see anything.
Good work, Tom. You just brought this into existence. This tournament is not going to exist.
Yeah, the Iron Man tournament. Yeah. All right, last one. Worst one. This is your game 5. In the Iron Man tournament, this is your game 5.
Miserable. I hate this mission.
As do I. I tell you straight up, I think this is just bad. Like in every single way. Okay. 2 objectives, wide deployment. The battlefield. At least one defensible terrain feature that is neither large nor very large must be set up wholly within each territory and more than 9 inches from enemy territory. Deployment. Wholly within your territory and more than 9 inches away, each player chooses one defensible terrain feature or faction terrain feature wholly within their territory to represent a wizard's tower. I cannot wait for Khorne Skull Altar players to choose the Skull Altar as their wizard tower. The irony is rich. Wizard towers have the arcane scenery rule in addition to any other scenery rules they have. Scoring. Hold 1, hold 2. There's only 2 objectives. So, okay. No hold more. Fine. And in addition, each player scores victory points at the end of the battle round as follows. If friendly units are garrisoning the wizard's tower in your territory, or if your starting army did not include any units that could garrison a terrain feature, and you control the wizard's tower in your territory, you get 2 victory points. Okay. So like the Sons of Bahamut could just stand around the tower and control it, obviously.
That checks out.
If there are no units garrisoning the wizard's tower in enemy territory, it's 2 VP. So the opponent, when the Suns player plays the opponent, right? Then they can garrison their own tower and score 2, and they're automatically going to get 2 because nobody's garrisoning the other tower. So they get 4, right? Whereas the person who doesn't have the garrison, right, and just controls it, only gets 2, as long as somebody stays in the other one. You with me? You understand what I'm saying here? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Like,
by the way, that's at the end of the battle.
It's at the end of the battle. Yeah, I understand. Yes. Did I say battle round? I might have. Yeah. I don't know if I did.
So we're playing. I
apologize if I did.
In end of the battle. I think
we're playing a siege game with 2 objectives.
Yes. Okay.
This is all white noise to me, gentlemen. Sorry, I'm checking. I'm checked out on
Upside,
this
the
mission.
only upside here is simple deployment. Yeah, exactly. Downside, 2 objectives is bad, even with the fake towers. Defensible terrain is bad. Garrisoning is a challenge. Like, it's just every part of this is a non-starter. It's bad, bad, bad. Fundamentally at its bones, it's a 1 out of 10. It's a nope. It's a nope.
I think it sounds like a great game 5 in the Iron Man tournament.
Yeah. So, like, the Iron Man tournament is Wizards Explode, Ice Fields, Can't See Anything. What's our fourth one? Hold on.
Is that Frigid Zephyr? Frigid Zephyr? Have you said that one? The no shooting one?
No, the lines of communication. Or no.
No, the every step is forward where you can't retreat. That's the one. That's the only good one out of there. And then you end on Towers in the Tundra, which I also didn't finish the wording from. That's fine.
Yeah, somebody brought it up. I like I said, white noise, so you may have mentioned that. Did you cover how the core rules right now, as worded, break this mission? With the way
Explain. No, I didn't even get into that. We don't need to get into that, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, just that you have to be able to garrison a terrain feature to be able to control it. So, yeah, if friendly units are like, where is it in here that again?
If
I'm
friendly
just,
units
like,
are garrisoning the Wizard's Tower in your territory, or if your starting army did not include any units that could garrison.
That could garrison. And you control the Wizard's Tower. You know, so I don't know. I guess maybe you could argue it's fine, but no enemy units are garrisoning. I don't know. I hate this mission. I don't even want to think about it anymore.
I agree. This is like, unless you're playing the Iron Man punishing tournament, like, hey, come on in, masochists. Who wants to have a bad time playing Warhammer? I've got the tournament for you. Are you tired of your armies being effective, playing with your rules, not losing troops randomly for no reason under your control? Then I've got the tournament for you.
Warbold defensible terrain features are controlled by the player who has any units garrisoning them. That's it. That's the core rules wording that breaks this.
We're assuming that basically this is allowing you to like take it as per normal terrain, and it's basically busting those rules. But yes, Cygnus Maximus, sure. I can't wait to see the results of the NPE Invitational.
Amazing.
That's what it is, the NPE Invitational Tournament. Yep. Yep. Now, so what's the total score here to me? The total score here to me is you got 12 things. I think 7 to 8 of them are perfectly viable and playable, which is honestly fine with me. That's great. So, like, let's just very quickly end on this and go through it. Okay?
Yeah.
Geomantic Pulse.
Yeah.
Good. 1. Yeah. Nexus Collapse. 2. Good.
Yeah.
Lines of Communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's your round 4, by the way. There you go. That's your round 4. Okay. That's the skip. Every step is forward. 3.
Yeah.
Limited resources. 4. Spring the Trap. 5. Again, assuming the FAQ. Fountains of Frost. 6. Cool. Yeah. Ice Fields. Nope. Power Flux. 7. Yeah. Swingy, but probably okay. Frigid Zephyr. Nope. No reward without risk. 8. Right? Yeah. Like, and again, there's probably I could live. I'm on the cusp with maybe one of those, but like, you know, there's 8 here that I think are all tournament ready. Bottom line. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, we were essentially I think 7 plus Realmstone Cash as an 8, I think, last season. So.
Yeah. So like we're on point. Like, we got to stop writing these let's go make people feel bad for playing their army battle plans. But other than that, like, these are pretty good. There was no like absolute 10 out of 10s for me here, but for the most part, it was a lot of solid work. Like a full 7 of these I actually like and think are really, really well designed. And then there's an 8th one that's like, yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah, we've got more missions this season where we're playing across the board a little bit more than last season. Obviously, last season was a lot of in the middle. You know, I have 4. Let's see, we've got 3 4 objectives, 1 5 objective, 4 6 objectives. I think one of those might be a bad mission, but anyway, yeah, it's nice to see that. Yeah, the ice fields is one of the 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nice. Playing more Platonic Warhammer.
Absolutely. All right, final thoughts, gentlemen. Let's call it a day. See, I told you it wouldn't be that long. I knew the battle plans would be relatively quick. So
yeah.
Okay. Tyler, final thoughts.
Well, I'm about a 7.5 for this season.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at. That's my
very good. Tom, final thoughts.
It's a 6. Like, I'll play it, and it's better than the last 2 seasons. But it's definitely, like, depending upon scenario choices, it could be better or worse.
Sure. Yeah, my read is what's so funny about this season and what I talked about is I felt like I was starting very negative, even though I had a lot of good things to say, because the fundamental bones of this season I actually really like. The battle plans, I like most of them. Like 2/3 of them, I'd be happy to roll up and play at any tournament.
Yeah.
You could grab any 5 in the Storm of those 8, and I'd be like, this is going to be 5 good rounds of Warhammer. The battle tactics are good. The grand strats, I feel like I've got 3 options, right? The fundamental bones of the primary loop of this game, this is one of the best design seasons we've done. Okay?
I would throw the endless spells in there as well, potentially. I mean, with the potential asterisk of we'll see how prevalent they are, but in terms of like, I really like the set that we've gotten.
Agreed. Like we'll get to that probably next week.
Yeah.
Right? But like when we have points and stuff, points dependent. But like so much of the bones of this I really like. It's just once again I really feel like we're gonna have the wizard season featuring nobody's playing wizards except the people who are already playing wizards and are now gonna beat people up even more with them. What a great time.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Everybody else go anti-magic or get hosed. And so, like, that's my concern. That extra weight on that front stuff is just too heavy, too narrative, too much for what is otherwise a really great battle pack. Right? Like, that I'm excited to play. Like, I'm excited to do these battle tactics, these scenarios, these strats. Like, the new endless spells, I agree with you. Like, even some of the... Even, like, if you just had the new spells. I think the spells are cool.
Yeah.
Right? Like, all that stuff, good. Just that fundamental realm rule stuff is just too much. It's just too much.
I didn't say. I mean, I thought there was some real creativity in some of these battle plans, like really stretching, new ground that they've covered with this pack than in all prior packs. So yeah,
I agree. I do think this is the best battle plan pack we've had in a long time, maybe ever. It's the consistency of it. Really hits me. So, yeah. Okay, good. What do you think out there? Give us your vote. Comment down below. Tell us what you think of it, what you're excited for in the season, what you're not sure about, all that kind of thing. Shout it out. Hey, if you didn't yet hit like, you should do that. It's so easy and really helps other people find the show, and we really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, we're here every week talking Age of Sigmar, bringing you all the hottest goss and insights and nonsensory. So, click those things that make little dings. As long as you're not Tom, who is just apparently unmuted at all points in time. If you want to support the channel, you can do so. There's a Patreon down there focused on your review and feedback for your hobby, taking your next step on your hobby journey. As always, though, we thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.